Hey, 2023 Funeral Unconference. What is happening? I want to congratulate all of you that are pouring in right now. We're going to let people keep coming. Uh, we have almost, well, this is the record for registrations for Unconference in the last 3 years. So super excited you are part of that group. I want to get into just the heart behind the unconference. The reason that we created this is because we want to be able to just give real valuable information. And as a supplier, we go to all these conferences, we go to exhibits, we do the booth thing, but we don't always get to say what we want to say because it's dependent on somebody coming by a booth. So the unconference is the ability to give nothing but 100% value to you as the attendee. We have over 22 different companies involved in the unconference this year. And I'm just going to highlight, I know it's boring, but this is the reason it happens. I'm going to highlight our title sponsor, which is Tukios. We have two featured sponsors that you're going to get to hear individually from over the next 2 days, Legacy.com and Ring Ring. And then our panelists are going to be Sepiogard, Inman, Domani Preneed, Tribute Tech, Tukios, Legacy, Keeper, FuneralDecisions CRM, Domanicare, Aftercare.com, Full Circle Aftercare, Everly, Johnson Consulting, Foresight Companies, Live Oak Bank, C&J Financial, Ring Ring, Disrupt Media, SoCal Approach, Cremation Recycling, Parting Stone, and Titan Casket. So we have a insane lineup. It's going to be extremely, extremely powerful. So some housekeeping things. The chat is on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. You can click the chat button. You can pull up the chat. The chat is active. The chat is being moderated. My team will be in and out of the chat answering questions. You can leave emojis, a lot of different things that you can do inside the chat. So make sure you stay active in the chat. There is a questions tab. You can ask questions there. If you have a question that you want to get answered, you can throw it in the chat, but there's a ability that's going to get lost in the chat because the chat's going to be pretty active. So you can use that questions tab. That's going to be moderated by our team as well. We will be throwing up some poll questions randomly. And then there's also, it says apps. And when you click on that, there is a handout section. So I will draw attention throughout the next 2 days. We have some panelists that have handouts for you, free downloads for you, giveaways, all kinds of great, cool, fun things. You can access those through the handouts. So we'll draw attention to that. And from a housekeeping perspective, that's about it. We are going to have call to actions that pop up on the screen. So there, again, for some giveaways where you can go and click a link, go fill out a form, some fun giveaways that are going to happen over the next 2 days, and then just some great information you can download. I know there's going to be some studies that are referenced by some of the panelists that they're going to give you access to go download those. So pay attention for the call to actions. The call to action, when you click the call to action, it will open a new window and a new tab for that call to action. It will not force you out of the webinar. So you can stay here in the unconference, even if you click the link in a call to action. So, all right, I'm going to stop talking because I want to get into some time with our title sponsor, Curtis Funk from Tukios. But as I bring Curtis on, we're going to show a promo video for Tukios. So guys, throw that video up.
I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you've called. If you're looking for a phone tree, we don't have one. Just real people with a specific set of skills. Skills that we've developed supporting thousands of funeral homes. Skills that make us a nightmare for issues like yours. If you want to keep your problems, you can hang up now. But if you don't, within a few moments, we will get to the bottom of this. We will find a solution, and we will help you.
Tukios, this is JC. How can I help you?
Love it. Love it. Curtis.
Can you hear me?
Welcome, man. I can hear you. What's happening?
Not much. Yeah. Love that video.
That's so good, man. Your team did a great job putting those videos together. So I just want to give a little teaser. There's going to be some fun things that come over the next 2 days from Tukios, videos like that, and there may be even Curtis may rap a little bit too, possibly. So pay attention during the breaks because there's going to be some fun content that we will share each day. But Curtis, man, thank you for being the title sponsor of the Funeral Unconference. This is the third year that we've done the Unconference. We don't really we're not really counting the first year because that was we threw that together in 10 days. That was during COVID, after immediately once everything shut down and ICCFA was canceled. You and I actually had a conversation and I said, hey, I got this idea. What do you think? You're like, yeah, it sounds great. We need to be able to have a place where we can still get information out and suppliers can be the ones that dictate the conversation and just give nothing but value. So we threw that together in 10 days. And then we did this last year, and this is an annual thing. We will give a special announcement at the end of day 2 on what the Unconference will look like next year. I'm pretty psyched about it. But man, thank you for being the title sponsor.
Oh no, we're super honored to be. This has been awesome. I mean, the last few years have been a blast to participate in this. And I think you nailed it on the head just in the intro when you said, this really gives suppliers and vendors an opportunity to share our thoughts and to just hear what's coming next, what we're thinking about, what's on the roadmap for all these companies. Because a lot of times the conferences, there's definitely vendors are participating, but a lot of times the speakers will be from outside, which is great too. We need to hear it. But the thing I love about the Unconference is very industry focused, and we can kind of hear what's going on in everybody's minds. So
that's the goal. Initially the first year when we did this, the goal was ICCFA got canceled, and I was having conversations with suppliers. They're like, holy crap, what are we going to do? We rely on some of these conferences to be able to see clients, to be able to have conversations, to be able to roll out new product. What are we going to do? Some companies were set up well because they had a great social presence and they had been building email lists. They had been building social media awareness. So their ability to distribute was still there. But the heart behind this literally was, how do we control some of the narrative? How can we give attendees what they need to hear and exactly what we want them to hear? Roll out product roadmaps, give insight to things that you're working on. There's so much changing, and we're going to have a technology panel later this afternoon that's really going to highlight some of those things that are changing on the technology side, because technology is you guys are leading the pack in some of that as well. It's a moving target. There's things going, AI, there's all kinds of different things. So, what are your expectations, Curtis, over the next 2 days? What do you hope attendees gather from this?
I hope they do obviously just gather a ton of value that, those of us that are involved in the panel, just being willing to be transparent, even though, our competitors are listening or we're on panels together. I think that's pretty awesome. But just being willing to kind of, show our cards a little bit, to better the profession as a whole. Because I think, there's something I talk about a lot, which is I feel like as vendors, we really have an obligation to funeral homes to help them to stay relevant, right? I think there is this push on the consumer side, direct to consumer, do it yourself, where folks are there, and there are vendors over in that space as well that are death care vendors, but they don't really work like we do for funeral homes. And so I think it's important for us really just all together, whether we're competing with each other or not, to just be open with what we see, where we see things need to go, and be willing to share so we can all gain together. I mean, being a little too closed off and try about what we're going to do next, I don't think really helps us all that much, because once somebody does something, you can, everybody's going to do it anyway, right? Or we're all thinking about the same things at the end of the day. So I do think like that's something I'm really looking forward to here, is just because you've got these panels put together of folks that are working in the same areas and competing with each other. I think it'll be great just to, if everyone's willing to be open like that and just provide as much value as possible. You and I have done a few of these webinars this year already. And, one of the things you said to me after our first one, which was like, we really just laid it out there and gave a lot of free content, a lot of free value. And that's my hope, is like, this is a free conference, but hopefully the attendees will learn as much here as they would at a conference they paid for a registration on, or more. Right. So that's kind of my expectation and hope.
I have no doubts, and that's one of the things I admire the most about you is you and I, when I first mentioned the idea of an unconference, and putting, I guess, competitors together on a panel, a lot of people were like, "Oh, I don't know about that. Like, how's that going to work?" But one of the things you said to me is like, it's good for funeral service. It's good for funeral service because we all need to be aware of the problems. We all need to be aware of the struggles that funeral homes face and be able to develop the products that are going to address those problems. And the more open and collaborative we can be, I think one of the most transparent webinars that's happened in this space was the webinar we did back in April, the AI webinar. I mean, you were very transparent on just some of the things that are coming on your roadmap with Tukios for AI and how that's being built into your website platform and Obit Writer and different things. And we're going to talk a lot about some of that stuff today. But I love how these panels work out. The feedback I get every year from panelists and companies that are involved in these panels are like, we actually really enjoyed being on a panel with competitors, because it forces a collaborative environment. And at the end of the day, that's the mission, right? Like, every company that's involved in this wants to do the right thing for funeral homes. We want to push funeral service in the right direction. We want to provide the right tools that allow funeral homes to serve families better. And that's really at the core and at the heart. And you can see who values that the most on these panels, and that's the real exciting part. So let's do this. Your team put together a couple videos, so walk me through some of the people are going to get an insight to a different I think a different Tukios because of some of the promos and the content and then the wrap that potentially is going to come. Give me some insight to the creative with your team of just how you came up with these things, and give the folks a little sneak peek what they're going to see.
Oh, I got to give a little credit to you and your team, honestly, because as we brainstormed a little bit at the beginning, our culture at Tukios is very, like laid back and chill and fun. And some people get a taste of that. And so when we were talking about some ideas and just kind of jamming with your team, we came up with a few, and really that, you can only ask so much. And I know you're a Gary Vee fan, right? He's got that book, Jab, Jab, Right Hook, which is like give, then ask, right? And I feel like we try to do that with our marketing. And since, like we're gaining by being the title sponsor, having our logo out there and being able to participate like this. And so we didn't really want to have our like promos and ads and things that were part of this be too much of an ask. So we just tried to make them all more funny and goofy. So, that first one, if you're on for that, is like, we hired some guy out of like the UK that did like a Liam Neeson voiceover to sound like Taken, and that was just, we were bouncing ideas off internally here. And Jordan, does our marketing, social media stuff for us, she had that idea because there's a few things people say about Tukios consistently, and we ask for reviews and feedback. So we get somewhere between anywhere between like 5 and 25 a day. So we have tons of reviews, so we know what people think of us. And one of the most popular, or one of the most common things we hear is that our support answers the phone, right? It's a real person that answers the phone. So that was kind of like our goofy way of telling you support answers the phone instead of just make it more fun and less braggy, even though now me talking about it sounds kind of braggy. But either way,
it's all good.
That's the plan. It's like, get these videos out. They can just be kind of more funny and definitely kind of give you a look into the culture. And even, a lot of these were filmed in a couple of them were filmed in the office. So you kind of just have a little peek. And if you look at our social media, our office is like this old building in downtown Ogden, Utah. Anyway, that's kind of the background on them.
Love it. Cool. All right, we're gonna wrap up this segment here in a minute. We'll get into our pre-need and travel assurance segment. But as we wrap up, Curtis, give me what do you think's one of the biggest hurdles facing funeral service right now?
Oh, man, not to just sound repetitive, but I do think it is this push on the consumer side. I don't think people are quite feeling it yet, but looking at the technology side, that's where the money's being invested, right? You're seeing a lot of money invested in these direct to consumer platforms for online arrangements, even insurance products and different aftercare, estate closing, estate planning. There's so many businesses that you may not have heard of if you're just coming to NFDA and ICCFA and these other conferences. But if you're paying attention to the Silicon Valley and startup world, you're seeing a lot of money invested in those businesses. And there's even some that I've spoken to. I'm not going to name any of them, of course, but one that I've spoken to said, we don't like funeral directors. We're going to do this direct. And I'm like, whoa, you and I, we don't have anything to talk about at this point, to be honest. Because that's not our style. And so I do think that's something to think about is how do you sort of embrace what's going on over there to keep the funeral home relevant, really. So.
Yeah, I love it. You got to keep funeral homes relevant, push funeral directors. I think that's probably, from my perspective, one of the things that's the biggest hurdle is getting a funeral director to take action. Progression in this space is 1,000% going to take action. It's going to take funeral homes taking risks, trying new things, deviating from the way that they've always done things. And that sounds repetitive in itself because it's a thing that in closed groups with suppliers, we complain about pretty heavily is we got to get funeral directors to move forward. I think we're starting to see some of that shift happen, but at the rate of what the consumer is evolving and how they want to engage with companies, how they want to memorialize, how they want to grieve. There's so many different resources and tools available at their fingertips, but not every single one of those resources and tools has the consumer best interest in mind, nor the profession's best interest in mind, and how to actually solve that problem. And I think that's what companies in death care have made at the forefront, and why funeral directors should continue to partner and more so at a rapid pace with the brands that are available in death care, because not only does a company like Tukios have the funeral home's best interest in mind, but you're also building products for the consumer. So you're serving almost two masters. You got to be aware of what the consumer behavior is, as well as what funeral homes need and want to be able to operate and merge those two things together. And that takes action. It takes funeral homes to take action. It takes funeral directors to make the right decisions, to try things that they've never tried before, because the consumer is a different consumer than what we've ever served before. And I think that's the biggest the cliff that we're up against is we've got to be able to get funeral directors to move forward. You can create all the best products in the world. All of these brands that are involved in the unconference can create the best of the best. But unless the funeral home takes action with what's being created, we're not going to see the full potential and the full value of that said product or service. So, man, thank you for what you do. Thank you for your innovation. Thanks for jamming with me for 15 minutes. We'll see you back on the technology panel. And thank you for being the title sponsor and partnering with us.
Oh, happy to be. Thanks so much, Ryan.
All right. Thanks, Curtis. I'm going to bring on our next panelist. So let's get this rolling. We've got our pre-need panel that we're going to bring on. So let's bring up Chris Johnson from Sepiogard. Chris, I am inviting you right now to participate. And we're going to bring on Dave McComb from Inman. What's up, Chris?
How you doing? You can hear me okay, right?
I can hear you just fine, man. Thank you.
Of course.
And I'm going to bring up Riley from Domani Preneed. All right. Everybody should be coming up. All right. Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome. Thank you for being a part of the 2023 Funeral Unconference. Some of you have been on before and panelists, some are new. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to go around the horn and let each of you give like a quick 30, 45-second introduction to yourself. And then the way that these panels are working for the attendees is every company has submitted 2 questions and talking points. And we're going to do our best to moderate through those and make sure the conversation flows and is digestible. Again, the goal is to give complete transparency and value to the attendee, and I believe that everybody's going to do that. So I'm going to just go clockwise around my screen. So Chris, give us a quick introduction, who you are, who you're with.
Can I go last? I'm just kidding.
No, you can't. You're first today.
All right. Pressure's on. I'm Chris Johnson with Sepiogard. I am a CEO and co-founder over here, and we provide an away-from-home product. So, if death occurs 75 miles or more from home, we take care of everything to get the deceased back into the care of the funeral home and return them for their service. So we started officially in 2019. We've seen incredible growth, and we now have thousands of sales agents nationwide, and we're a little biased. We feel like we work with some of the best partners out there, funeral homes, cemeteries, pre-need companies, you name it. So we're really excited to be here, Ryan. We appreciate you having us, and good to see everybody on this call.
Love it. Thank you, Chris. All right, Riley, you're up. Oh, Riley, we can't hear you. You're...
How about now? Is that better?
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. So I tried to be pretty quick with it, but I'm Riley Facer. I'm with Domani Preneed, joining you from beautiful Utah, where we finally ended our winter and have some beautiful weather outside. So we're excited about that. Domani Preneed, we partner with amazing funeral homes across the country, help them with their pre-need marketing strategy and the execution of that strategy. So we've been around for a couple of years now, and just enjoy helping funeral homes grow their business in the best way we possibly can.
Love it. Thanks for being here, man. Dave.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Can you hear?
Gotcha.
Excellent. Well, hey, that was a great opening segment, especially that ominous video. That was pretty cool. That took some that you were involved in that, Ryan.
We did some brainstorming with Curtis's team to come up with some concepts. So yeah, it was fun.
Good. Well, Dave McComb is my name. I've been in the funeral service since 1986. I am a funeral director, pre-need guy. We did a lot of pre-need in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We were one of Forethought's largest sellers in the United States for an independent. And we do database marketing. We started database marketing back in 1986, which is an integral part of having a very effective pre-need sales program. I was a stockholder in Forethought for a while, and then it got bought out by a group of investors. And that turned out to be a really good thing. But anyways, great company. That's where I first got introduced to travel plan like products, and it was called Assist America. And we sold a lot of Assist America. In 2014, I bought I bought Inman Shipping. And part of Inman Shipping, they had a travel plan called Omega Care, I believe it was. And then we didn't like the name, so we changed it to Travel Plan by Inman. And so it kind of completes the circle between pre-need and at-need. Obviously, on the pre-need side, you're going to sell a travel plan. On the at-need side, you're going to have a fulfillment. And our company handles it seamlessly from one side to the other. You're looking at the owner. If you have an issue, I'm the guy to call.
Excellent. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to just keep the same rotation, go around, ask questions. And if we have time at the end and anybody wants to respond to somebody else's question, we can do that. But for sake of time to get through everybody, we're not going to do that unless we have some time at the end. For attendees, there will be some call to actions in this segment that are going to pop up. There is also, if you go into the app section and the handouts, there is a downloadable handout from Inman that you can grab as well. So make sure you get in there, click the download button, and grab that. So, all right, Chris, you're going to get the first question. And we're going to throw the call to action up right now. We'll just highlight this. You have socks. You want to give everybody on here socks. So there's a form that my team's going to throw up. So watch for that. Or a link to a form where you said, I want everybody to get a pair of socks. So you're going to let everybody go sign up for a pair of socks, right?
It's true. I don't know if anybody's heard about these socks, but here's a little sneak peek. That's just one of several colors there. And you may ask, what do socks have to do with Sepiogard? Nothing.
Okay.
They're just awesome socks. And everybody needs them. So
there you go. Form. All right. That form's going to be coming up here any second. There it is. Get your free Sepio socks. Click on that. It will not take you, it'll not take you out of the webinar. You can click on that. It'll pull up a new window, fill out that form. Love it. All right, Chris, we all know the benefits of travel protection plan offers to customers, but how does it benefit the funeral home?
That's a great question. I think this is kind of a fundamental question and something that we all need to understand. First and foremost, everybody on this call, funeral home owners, everybody in the profession has their unique ability and what they do best. And when someone dies away from home, it's time to rely on the experts to reach out to one of us to help them out. So I think one of the best things to talk about with this question is the fact that the consumer nowadays, the client families that we're seeing and our counselors are meeting with, they almost expect something like this to already be a part of the pre-need plan, right? So it's whether they know it or not. Oftentimes they already think that this is a part. The only time that they find out that this is not a part of their plan is when a death occurs away from home. And they call the funeral home and they say, this happened, get me back. What am I going to do? Right. And since this is not something that funeral homes necessarily specialize in because it doesn't happen all the time, it can be a mess. And then it can, the consumer, the client family looks to the funeral home to help them out. And when they're not fully helped out in this situation, it could be a bad thing. So I just think it completes the circle. It completes the process. Riley's going to talk about pre-need in general, and that's a common thing. Everybody should have a pre-need program, right? And it makes a lot of sense to the consumer, and this kind of helps fully complete that pre-need process, right? So when this plan, an away from home plan, is brought up to a client family, it already makes perfect sense because they already assume that something like this should already be happening. I hope that makes sense, but it really does. Yeah. It completes the process and makes the funeral home look really, really good. And then I guess last thing on the flip side, if death occurs away from home and this was not offered to the client family during the pre-need process, but they find out that this was an option, that's also not a great scenario. So
Sure. No, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that. And so you've mentioned pre-need now. Dave mentioned pre-need, so we're gonna hop to Riley. Riley, you're the pre-need guy on this panel. So we've got you're gonna give away a free market analysis, right? So the team's gonna throw up a call to action. There's a Google form you can go to. Explain just real quick, Riley, what this call to action is, what this market analysis is.
Yeah, we're offering a free market analysis. I think one of the keys to running a successful pre-need program is you have to have a strategy. So if you're asking yourself, well, I'm doing certain things on the pre-need side, but if you don't have a specific strategy attached to it, it's going to be hard to measure your results, number one, but also number two, there's no guided approach. So if you don't have one, we got you covered. We're going to offer a free market analysis. We dive into the details of your market. This is to share with you what your market share is. It's also going to give you a roadmap or a marketing strategy that you could implement and it's going to be customized to your market. So that is the call to action. Definitely fill that out, get it back to us, and we'll turn that market analysis around for you, review it with you so we can answer any of your questions.
Love it. All right. So here's the $1 million question, Riley. It's coming to you. Why is an effective pre-need program so hard to run?
I think it's because it's complex, right? Pre-need is not, it's not easy. Conceptually, it makes sense, right? We know I compare it to golf in a lot of ways, right? Conceptually, it seems very easy. All you have to do is hit that little white ball into a hole. Well, that's great, but the more you play, you realize there's so many different layers to that game, right? And strategy plays a huge part of it. You have to have the right tools, and then you have to know how to use those tools, and you have to use them consistently to get better at them. But if you're anything like me, you need a lot of coaching and training as well. And I know that's something that even, Chris spoke to travel plans, that coaching and training is an important element on how to execute. And pre-need just takes a lot of time and resources to make it successful. And you should have a strategy attached to every element. Take, for example, lead generation. A lot of funeral home owners believe that they should be dropping direct mail. But have you asked the question, well, why? Do you know why you're dropping? I've talked to a lot of funeral homes and they say, well, we drop mail a couple times a year. Well, that's great, but why? Where are you dropping? And more importantly, where are you not dropping direct mail? Where are you going to get your results? And so that should all be a part of that strategy. And then once you've been able to have some success in generating those leads, getting people to raise their hand, what is your strategy to convert those opportunities into sales? What kind of coaching and training are you providing your salespeople? What type of scripting are you giving them? What type of sales materials are they equipped with to be able to execute at a high level? And then, almost more importantly, what about those families that weren't ready to convert? What is the plan and strategy with them? Pre-need is something that I think the consumers, they don't really know. Pre-need means something different to every person, right? And consumers don't really know what all goes into a pre-arrangement. We need to nurture them. There should be some endless nurturing that's occurring with those families that weren't ready to convert, that we can consistently follow up behind, whether it's email campaigns. We use a call center to help nurture those leads. We're going to continue to put them into an endless nurturing campaign to educate, inform, and get them closer to conversion.
Love it. Love it. There you go. That's why it's so hard to run. There's a lot of moving pieces. A lot of moving pieces. All right. Moving on to Mr. Dave. Mr. Dave, bringing us back to travel plan. Give me the why is Inman travel plan by Inman different from other travel plan protection plans that are available?
That is such an awesome question. I'm glad you asked. First off, I'm a funeral director. I mentioned that earlier, and I understand the background that is needed for when you have a fulfillment. I mean, it's great to make pre-need sales, and along with that, selling a travel plan. But there is this time of fulfillment. Granted, they don't happen a lot, but you want to make sure that a fulfillment that is not executed properly doesn't reflect badly on the funeral home you're representing, because that could be a very bad thing. It can be bad for the family, and it also can be bad for the organization. And number two, we own the fulfillment network. We own Inman Shipping. Our service providers have been vetted. They have to comply with embalming standards to make sure that the embalmed person comes back looking presentable. And if they don't, they probably aren't going to be a member of our network anymore. So we make sure that our people are up to date. If you don't have a network, then probably you're calling the cheapest guy to do an embalming and a pickup. Because, why would you want to go to the highest price one? You want to keep your costs low. So we already have that in the bag prior to the time that somebody dies. It's no surprise on who we're going to call. We know who we're going to call. And then lastly, if any business, we have more bankruptcies now than we've had a lot of time in the last number of years. We have, rising interest rates. We have a lot of the S&P 500. As a matter of fact, the 400 bottom of the 500 S&P companies have zero cash. And now their interest expenses have almost doubled. And so we're probably going to see more bankruptcies down the road. I'm very happy to say our company is very healthy. We've had great growth. But if in the unlikely chance that our business would go out of business, we are backed up by insurance on each individual policy, that each individual plan that is sold. It is backed up by insurance, and which is backed up eventually by Lloyd's London. And if we're gone, they'll execute.
Beautiful. Okay, we'll keep it going on travel plan. Back to Chris. One of the major pain points in the profession right now is employee turnover. How do you help with employee retention when it comes to pre-need counselors?
Yeah, so specifically with pre-need counselors, I didn't share this, but my background is in pre-need and absolutely love it. I was in a great position with a great company, a large pre-need company out there, and was able to lead and build their largest territory, and worked with hundreds of agents. And so training and coaching and the whole deal is the life we lived. One of the biggest killers of production, obviously this is a no-brainer, but if you have a pre-need program at all and you lose an agent, it's the worst, right? The whole program is gone, especially if you have one counselor or two counselors, right? And this person, he or she, is awesome at what they do and they love it. It's devastating to the whole pre-need program. And what we found is it's pretty rare for a pre-need counselor in particular to leave the profession because they don't believe in it or they don't like it. That's pretty rare, because what we all do is pretty meaningful, and helping people prearrange, it makes perfect sense. The client families love them for it. It's very rewarding. I'm preaching to the choir here. However, the reason why they leave is largely due to finances. It's income based, right? And if you ever interview someone who leaves, it's always like, hey, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I just couldn't make ends meet financially, right? So, back in the day when we were even introduced to a plan like this, back with the pre-need company, before starting Sepiogard, one of the main drivers of even selling and providing an away from home plan like what we offer is to help with retention, right? So, that in reality is probably the biggest selling point to funeral homes and preneed companies and everybody that sells this plan, is that we help with retention. And specifically what I'm talking about is, yes, being able to get someone back home after death occurs, that's a given. It's super, super important. And that is something that we pride ourselves in, right? But if the preneed agent is not having a great experience and they don't know how to provide this plan to their client families, they don't know how to sell it, nobody wins, right? And most importantly, chances are good that they may not stick around, right? So if we can help that preneed agent add a little bit of income, sometimes a lot of income, right? They're going to stick around. That helps with retention. So, we don't have time to get into all of it, but everything that we have built, everything down to our customer support, our technology, our mobile apps, training, coaching, everything is based first and foremost around our agents, the counselors, the preneed counselors, having a great experience. And then from there, everybody else wins. That's our philosophy. We really, really zero in on that. And then when they have a great experience, they help more families, they sell more. It makes everybody look good. And then most importantly, they stick around. So that helps with retention a lot.
Love it.
So, yeah.
Love it. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right. So back to our preneed guy. So again, Chris talked about preneed. Dave's talked about preneed. You talked about the intricacies of why a preneed program is so hard to put together, strategy and those things, and you guys assist with that. So I hear this a ton. I know you hear it. Other vendors hear it. But funeral directors don't have time. So how do I find the time to do it and actually implement the right preneed program?
Yeah, if you find yourself asking that question, how do I find the time? You probably don't have it. That's probably a good indication that you don't have the time. And like you, I've been in the profession for over a decade, and I don't know if I've ever heard a funeral home owner or a director say, I'm trying to figure out how to fill up my free time, all this free time on my calendar. It's just not there. It's not existent. And I love what Chris was saying too, because even he pointed out a specific problem and issue with turnover, specifically with preneed agents. And when you have to reset that clock and your production stops because you have to replace a preneed agent, that takes time to recruit, hire, train, onboard, to get them fully, going full speed. That takes a lot of time. Quick example, a couple of weeks ago, my dryer started making some of the weirdest sounds ever. I was able to research and found there were two parts that needed to probably be replaced. I even got as far as taking the back of the dryer, off and seeing the parts that probably needed to be replaced. But as I did, I
made it farther than I'd been able to. So that's pretty impressive.
Well, it was kind of what we were talking about before, the layers of complexity. I realized that I was in over my head. There was no way that I could, and I didn't have the time. It was worth it for me to make the investment to call an expert to come in, and they were able to do it in an hour. He was in and out of my house, and my dryer is running like it's brand new. So I think that's just an important concept to remember, that, if you don't have time, there are professionals that do. This is what they do day in and day out. It's what we do on a daily basis. We can give you your time back while we continue to partner with you and grow your at-need business through our pre-need efforts, through our aftercare efforts. It's just important that you have that consistency. And I think that that's probably the biggest disruption to a funeral home owner's business, is those whether it's an agent quitting or occasional direct mail drops or Google campaigns or Facebook campaigns, there has to be consistency. And so if you focus on it for a minute and then have to give up because you don't have time, you're missing out on so much opportunity and leaving the door open for competition to catch up with you.
Yeah, good. Okay, I like it. So if you can't find the time, you probably don't have it. Call somebody.
Call somebody.
Call somebody.
We can help you.
I love it. Awesome. All right, Mr. Dave, back to you, sir. How does an out-of-area protection plan actually benefit a funeral home?
Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can still
Okay.
hear you and see you.
Okay, well, that's good. How does it benefit a funeral home? And Chris mentioned a couple ways, and Riley did too. But the main thing is on where the rubber meets the road, where there's a fulfillment. And if they get the body back, no cost to the family because they've already paid it. The funeral director is a hero, and that's a really big one. I mean, some of the prices of these can be pretty big. You know, if you have somebody dying in Guam, somebody dying in the Middle East, you're looking something north of $10,000 to have somebody come home. So that's a big plus. And it just makes things go smoother as well. It's less to do, less paperwork to fill out. And we're trying to save funeral directors time because funeral directors' time anymore is gold. Good funeral directors, really hard to find. And experienced ones, they're real expensive, but they're worth it. And there you go. That's about the most of it, I think, for that.
Okay. Good stuff. And I love what you said, that you want to make the funeral director the hero. And I think that's the consensus across the board, whether it's pre-need or travel plan, out of area protection plan, is making the funeral director look like the hero. So I want to go into the questions. We had a couple questions come through. And the first one, I think this one's going to be for Riley. Have you seen a market for pre-need sales for repatriated burial or shipping of cremains?
Have I say that again?
Have you seen a market for pre-need sales for repatriated burial or shipping of cremains?
I think I wouldn't say that it's been, no, I wouldn't say that there's been a huge increase. My personal experience, now, I'm not the one that's actually meeting with families. My team, obviously, I could probably have somebody on my team that's sitting down with some of these families and riding along to hear if we're running more into that. But to my knowledge, it hasn't got back to me that we're seeing more of that. You could potentially see it with obviously with people being more transient and relocation, vacationing, retiring. There could be some more opportunities, but yeah, I don't know if I have a good answer for that one. It's a good question though.
It's a good question. We have another good question on pre-need, but first, before I ask that one, I want to give the three of you the opportunity. Does anybody just want to jump in and comment on somebody else's answers? I want to make sure we give the opportunity to do that while we got a few minutes.
I guess.
Go ahead, Dave.
No, I said that means they're pretty thorough, I guess.
Yeah, they were great answers. All right, well, I'll ask the next question then, and I think this is another pre-need focused one, and I think maybe everybody could probably have an answer on this one possibly, but probably Riley's going to have the first crack at it. I'm curious how a successful pre-need program stacks up compared to a funeral home's at-need sales. If they're doing $1 million annually in at-need sales, how much should they be doing in pre-need to be crushing it?
Yeah, that's exactly what we try to determine for every market in that market analysis. We really take a look at their average traditional value, their average cremation value, obviously total call volume, and that mix between cremation and funeral, traditional funerals as well. All that goes into our data to be able to produce and say, hey, look, this is what you're doing at need, but this is what you should be writing. This is the true pre-need potential of your market. And yes, there is a correlation. What it is specifically, we outline in that market analysis. And then we also provide, again, that plan showing you exactly how you should achieve that pre-need number and compare it directly to what you're seeing on an at-need basis. But there is a direct correlation.
Excellent. And if you want, again, that the pop-up has gone away, but if you hop in the chat, there is a link for that free market analysis from Domani Preneed. So hop in there, click that Google link. Also, the Sepio free socks Google form link, and then the handout for Inman is in the handout section. So make sure you grab those things. All right, so I'm gonna make up a question. I'm gonna give Dave and Chris each a crack at this. Why would a funeral home not offer a travel plan or out of area protection plan?
Dave, you want to go first?
Chris, go ahead, Chris.
Okay. Why would they not? The simplest answer is probably they don't have a pre-need program, or pre-need is not important to them, right? Because, you know, a plan like ours it's the same mentality as a pre-need program. It's like, hey, why not just wait for every family to die and just use them at need, right? Why get in front of them ahead of time? So that's typically what we see. The other thing is which we've been able to do a good job.
Oh, got our first freeze. All right, Dave, why don't you go ahead and you answer as Chris comes back to us.
Sure. So the question is, why would somebody not choose to do a travel plan program at their, is that the question?
Yes, sir.
Well, if somebody's been around a while and they've sold pre-need, then they know Assist America a lot of times didn't give good service. And then we were the ones that we felt that at Gio McComb & Sons Funeral Home. We had poor service at the time that the fulfillments were there. You know, sometimes they gave us a hassle on paperwork. Sometimes they didn't call us back very quickly. And so that might be the reason, is because of the historical service. And we certainly have cleaned that up. I mean, we have the most to lose if we don't clean that up, because Inman serves people on that at need, you know, go have somebody transfer back to their funeral home basis. And other than that, probably, you know, Chris has got a good point as well. They don't have a pre-need operation. And this is all about recovering revenue that's lost from cremation. It's about the de-ritualization of America. We've become less churched. We've become less interested in religion. And unfortunately, that is one of the gatekeeping entities of funeral service. And so this helps make up for that. And of course, the entity that is behind the travel plan, the funeral home or the cemetery or the pre-need organization, they set whatever the pre-need counselor makes. We just simply provide the product and give good service. And so whatever number they figure out is a good number for them and their marketplace. Each marketplace is different. We work with them on that, make it transparent. There you go.
Okay. Riley, I'm going to ask.
Can you hear me again?
Yeah, I can hear you, Chris. Do you want to finish? If you can remember where you were at.
I have no idea what you heard. I was talking forever. And, you know.
There's a lot of good stuff.
I can't remember where you cut off, but you froze. You know, the good thing was you froze like this. So that's the good thing.
That's my good side. That's really good. Now, I think I'll just jump into what I heard Dave talking about, and that's the point I was trying to make. So sorry if this is repeating myself here, but I think what we've been able to capitalize at Sepiogard is, I always say, like, fortunately and unfortunately, this the kind of the bad experiences people have had with plans like ours in the past. Things like, you know, first call limitations, technicalities, like where the you know, the company like ours won't fulfill something, like, hey, you called me too late, sorry, you're out, right? We don't believe in that. We've kind of experienced things having sold plans like this in our previous days, and we're like, okay, let's do the exact opposite, right? It makes sense. So I think sometimes we come across, you know, funeral homes and organizations that they just say they had a bad experience with it. And so the good news is that we built our company based off of doing the opposite of those bad experiences. So
love it. That's the perfect wrap up to this segment. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of the 2023 Funeral Unconference. Thank you for the value, the solid 35 minutes of hardcore value that you just gave everybody that is on. So we are going to take a 5-minute break, and we will be back with a quick interview with John Heald from Legacy.com, and then we will hop into our technology panel. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. My team's going to throw up a video, and we are going to head to break.
I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you've called. If you're looking for a phone tree, we don't have one. Just real people with a specific set of skills. Skills that we've developed supporting thousands of funeral homes. Skills that make us a nightmare for issues like yours. If you want to keep your problems, you can hang up now. But if you don't, within a few moments, we will get to the bottom of this. We will find a solution, and we will help you.
Tukios, this is JC. How can I help you?
Wish you could slide into my mind. It's what you said, and so am I.
Hey there! If you haven't heard yet, Tukios has embraced AI technology and is using it to moderate guest books and write obituaries. You're probably thinking, that's awesome, but what exactly is AI and how does it work? Well, AI, or artificial intelligence, uses machines to simulate human thinking. Crazy, right? So, next time you use the Tukios AI guestbook moderator and AI overwriter, know that this is what's going on behind the scenes.
All right, all right. We are back, and I am going to bring on my friend John Heald, and John and I are going to do a quick 5-minute interview before we get into our panel discussion on technology. What is up, John?
Ryan, how you doing, buddy?
I am fantastic. How are you?
Good for a cold, dreary day here in Boston, but everything's great.
Boston, cold and dreary. Come on, man.
No, it's all good.
Come on. Well, awesome. Well, John, man, so thank you so much for being a featured panelist. You've been engaged in the unconference all 3 years. So thank you for that. Again, you were one of the people that I reached out to when the pandemic happened and we thought about launching this and just doing something for funeral service. You were one of those people, along with Curtis, that I reached out to and just bounce some ideas off of. So thanks for being that. But tell us a little bit about legacy.com and what is new.
Yeah, well, first of all, congratulations on the continued success of the unconference, right? You just said it kind of, you hit the nail on the head there, and just getting the word out to as many people as possible. So your continued persistency in doing this and inviting some great companies to help share their story and share what it is that they do is something that we need to continue to do in this profession. So happy to be a part of it and support this from the beginning and for the years to come. So legacy.com, there's a lot that's happening. And, you know, what I picked up from your opening session with Curtis and Tukios, of which I absolutely love that video, by the way, I texted him and said, send it to me, is, you know, the statement, control the narrative, right? So one of the things that we are working hard at Legacy is to have us control our narrative, who we are, what we do, why we do it, and what are the benefits for those that are involved or want to participate, you know, in services that we offer. And I think we've been doing a good job with a lot of work to go in terms of just, you know, what it is that we're doing specifically for the funeral profession. Because historically, you know, Legacy was started back in 1998, and I call us the oldest startup I know, because we've reimagined who we are and what we're doing. And through the affiliation with the newspaper channel for all of those years and having continued to do that, but pivot and focus on the funeral home channel since I joined the company in 2015, you know, what is it that we can do? So, you know, one of the things that we've got out there, I think it's a funeral director's favorite 4-letter word. It's free, right? So it's on Legacy to prove out their value in terms of what it is that we can do. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that Legacy is just a very large website that has a lot of traffic for people looking for obits and funeral homes. You know, and I look at the featured panelists here and Ring Ring being one of them. And I'll never forget Welton saying one time, you know, Legacy's traffic in and of itself says that if you're a funeral home, you have to find a way to be a part of that and look at it as an entirely separate channel in which to market your business. So while I believe in that, I want to make sure that, you know, I'm of a mindset that it's funeral homes first. If we do that, everything else will take care of itself. And And we've been doing that for a while now and still have a lot of work to go. But our goal is to make sure that if someone's searching for a funeral home or an obit, that they can be found. I want the funeral home website to win, quite honestly, right? So if your website's set up to do that, continue to win. But if in the event that it's not, can we help assist get more people to read an obituary of a family you're serving or to find that funeral home because they want more information? So we launched Legacy Pro about 2 years ago, 0 funeral homes on board. We are just shy of 9,000, which is somewhat remarkable in a short time span. Again, free, I think, helps, but it always wants us to prove the value out. So I think one of the more interesting things that we've done of late, and I heard the last panel with Dave, Chris, and Riley around lead generation. And I loved your video teaser right here before we just started up again about like community and build leads. One of the things that we've done is, and Dave McComb, I think, said this, but we want to educate the consumers the value of funeral service. The hard part is that consumers want it. They may not necessarily want it from funeral homes. And I don't mean that in a bad way. So we've got the traffic and the eyeballs, but they're interested in how much does a funeral cost. So we introduced a plan and price module on Legacy in our funeral home directory that just asks some simple questions. And we now have the ability to drive that lead directly to the funeral home, to their third-party marketer, to the insurance company, to both, whatever that case may be. And recently launching that outside the directory onto obit pages, the most visited page on Legacy. So really exciting stuff in terms of, what we can do to continue to help funeral homes understand who we are and what we're doing.
I love it. And John, we're going to hear more from you in our panel. So let's, I'm going to bring on the rest of the technology panel. And we've got a call to action from you right here. If you want to learn more about Legacy Pro, please click that link and go to that landing page. Again, to everybody that's on, when you click the link, it's not going to take you out of the webinar. So you'll still stay in the webinar. It's just going to open a new window. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding the technology panel. We've got Curtis Funk from Tukios. We're going to add Charlie Cole from Tribute Technology. Add Charlie here. We're going to bring on Mandy from Keeper. Let's see. And then we've got John is already on. And we've got Michael Regina from Funeral Decisions. Everybody's coming in. Awesome. All right. Michael's coming on right now. What's happening? Welcome back, Curtis.
Been a while.
Charlie,
Mandy
welcome.
Winston.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hey, Mandy.
Hey.
Michael, what's up?
Hey, Ryan.
Awesome. Well, cool. Okay. We're gonna squeeze this in. This is a big conversation. We're gonna pack into 45 minutes. This is one of the things that we have. The feedback that we get from attendees of the unconference. Technology is always one of the panels where they want to know more. They want to hear more. We have a lot of questions. So we're going to be monitoring the questions. We're going to get to the questions if we can. Outside of that, we will get you questions that were answered. But here's the thing. If you're an attendee and we don't get your question answered on the live stream, please reach out to these companies. Their contact information is readily available. It's easy to find them online. Please reach out, ask questions, and have those conversations. So, John, we just heard from you. Curtis, we've heard from you. I'm going to start with Charlie real quick, then go to Mandy, then go to Michael. We'll go back to John, and then Curtis on just quick introduction. So give me a 15, 20-second introduction, Charlie.
Charlie Cole, I'm the CEO of Tribute Technologies, and I don't know Mandy and Michael as well, but something tells me, Ryan, I might be the new guy in the room as somebody who joined Tribute on March 1st. So career in e-commerce and tech, very new to the profession. So if I say anything stupid, Ryan, just catch me quick, all right?
No problem. I'll do my best. But just if you go away, it was like, hey, Charlie, no, don't say that. No, I'm just kidding. It'll be good. It's going to be great. Awesome. Thanks for being here, Charlie. Mandy.
Hey everyone, I'm Mandy. I'm the president of Keeper Memorials. We started our company about 10 years ago. We actually started working direct with consumers back in 2013. We then started working with funeral homes, cemeteries, hospice back in about 2015. We're essentially an online memorial platform. We plug right into your website. Lots of cool stuff to talk about. Thank you so much for having us.
You bet. Thanks for being here. Michael.
Hey everyone, Mike Regina, Funeral Decisions. Funeral Decisions, I think we started back in 2008 originally as a lead generation platform, but then kind of pivoted into just lead management software. So we have what I think is probably one of the top case or CRM systems in the industry. We work with a lot of the panelists here to different degrees, and I personally grew up in the business, so been around for a little bit here and there. So
love it. John.
So like Michael, funeral director by trade, but been in the obit space way too long, but fascinated with where it's been, but more importantly, where it's going.
Love it. Curtis.
Curtis Funk, the founder of Tukios. We started in 2010 and just excited to be part of this group. It's a great group.
It is a great group, man. You are right. Like, we got power hitters in here. You guys are all driving technology forward in death care, which is such a huge component. I mean, we don't look at death care as a techie profession or industry by any means, but tech is driving how consumers are engaging with funeral homes and how funeral homes are serving those consumers better. So excited to have this conversation. And to keep it fair, I am literally just luck of the draw. We're going clockwise. So John, you're going to get the first question. Then we'll go to Curtis, then down to Michael, Mandy, and then Charlie, and we'll circle back around. Same thing for all the attendees. There are going to be different call to actions that pop up on your screen. Look, there are valuable things that are being given away and information for you to take advantage of. So please click on those. Also, in the handout section, we've got a handout that is available to be downloaded from Keeper, a great 4-page handout with a lot of great information in that. So make sure that you get there and you download that handout. So John, first question to you is, with Legacy's new obit writer tool for both consumers and funeral homes, what makes yours different than others integrated into funeral home websites?
Yeah, right. So I've been with the obit since its paper days and everything that funeral directors do, to now this whole AI push in terms of helping funeral directors provide families the ability to write a more robust obituary in a matter of seconds. And I'd be curious, because Mandy's been focused on the consumer side. We are seeing a tremendous interest in consumers who want to write obits. They want to do it. They don't know how to do it. They don't know where to go and which to do that. So they can do it in, one of two ways: continue to do it old school and do that, or put in a couple of, talking points, key areas of interest, and get this well-written obit. And, absolutely mind-blowing in terms of what some of the output is. But then the question is, what do you do with it? So you can take it and, send it to your funeral director for distribution on their website. Through Legacy, you actually have the ability to publish it either on a newspaper or many newspapers. You can pick any newspaper in the country and publish it there, price dependent, or you can place it directly on legacy.com. So really interesting, because what we're learning is that there's a number of consumers, significant number of consumers, that aren't being provided an obituary for whatever reason in the arrangement room. So whether it be a cremation society or some business that just says we don't do obits, the consumer still wants one. So where can we provide an opportunity for these consumers to get information and to write a really good story about their loved one?
Love it. All right. And then again, here is the call to action if you want to learn more about Legacy Pro, click that. All right, Curtis, we're coming to you. So where do you see websites and online memorials headed in the future?
Man, I would love to get everybody's response to this one, honestly, if there's time, because I think, I mean, obviously it's a double-edged question here. Where are the websites going? I think the future of funeral home websites is about business growth. How does your website drive more business to your funeral home? How do you get more calls, right? The breakdown of traffic, we've talked about this before. Majority in the 80s% are their mourners coming to look for obituaries, but you've got this incredible audience, right, that you should be engaging with and building. And a lot of times you're already doing it. Your site has things built into it, no matter who you're using, right? Any of the website providers in space has things built in where it's collecting data that you can use, and that's really, really important. And then really, I think, also more in-depth planning arrangements on the website side. And on the memorial side, I mean, I hope it gets just awesome, right? Because right now, like a lot of our online memorials, they're very similar. Some of the things that would differentiate one online memorial from another might be more design, right? Where I think like features and functionality is where it needs to go. And trying to like brainstorm what those products should be, I don't think it's very hard, because you see a ton of companies entering the space, or maybe not that are like, to funeral homes. Again, it's more of a consumer thing, but products that are coming in, they're like a la carte. It's a super cool product, but they can't get distribution, right? So they might have like a really great like feature for an online memorial, but they're missing the rest. It might be like, great timeline tool, family trees, better galleries. It might be some, like future messages that are stored for people. It might be a vault for files. And then, I think with AI, we've had these AI conversations before, Ryan, and it's pretty amazing the conversations you can currently have with people who have passed or who are still living, if they have a huge digital footprint, right? So like you can go on ChatGPT right now and have a conversation with Steve Jobs with the right prompt. You can have a conversation with Harry Potter if you want to, right? You can have a conversation with Elon Musk, like whoever that might be. With the right prompts, you can create these conversations. And I think, we're not far away from like an AI chat bot. This is kind of, there's repercussions to this that we don't understand that might screw up grief and all kinds of things. But like for people to be able to go to an online memorial and like interact with the person, right? Their voice, their face, right? There's some pretty cool things. But again, I don't know if that like screws up grief, which we obviously don't want to do. But I think, there's just so much going on. There's so many cool things, but I think really the core of it is getting all of these cool things that are being built, like integrated into the current products and platform systems distribution that's in place that funeral homes are used to. So we're not asking them to change behavior and really, make it hard for them. So there's a bright future for sure, I think, with both websites and online memorials.
1,000%. So, one of the things with AI and websites is data. We're capturing data. We've got a lot of data. So Michael, I want to come to you. Why should a funeral home have my website hooked up to a CRM?
You have these firms, Ryan, that are, pick anybody, to the guys on the panel here, whoever, spending a lot of their resources in developing websites that convert. And what I mean by that is by getting people to request information, to pre-plan. I mean, of course, you're going to get people like asking, what time do you close, or where do I send flowers to, or wherever, but they're spending a lot of energy in developing these websites that help drive people into a kind of a pre-need funnel. And in a lot of cases, you'll have the names just simply getting emailed to a group of people, which, obviously is fine because it's getting there. But I can tell you time and time again, I've seen people that have requested information not getting that information because, 8 people are on the distribution list and somebody thought this person did it and somebody else thought that person did it. And at the end of the day, nobody actually did it. Plus, I know a lot of the websites have a back end, but the reality is that most of the pre-need counselors are not logging into like the back end of the website to see what's coming. They're just kind of relying on that email. So having kind of a proper website integration with a CRM system such as ours is going to obviously help ensure that the leads are getting followed up with. You can of course trigger an automated response if you want to. We've got a bunch of automation tools and capabilities built in to make it look like something's being sent by an actual person, even though it's a pre-written kind of response. But that really does ensure. And to be honest, like if you're going to spend the money and the resources switching your website from maybe something that you had back in the 90s, which are still, surprisingly out there in a large quantity, to something that, one of the websites that Curtis or Charlie's teams put together that are, obviously really well thought out, well designed websites, you're going to want to make sure that you're capitalizing on every name that's being, entered into those. So.
Well, I think data is such a huge conversation, and having a CRM to capitalize on, or not capitalize, compile all that data and have all that data accessible. There's a lot that can be done with that.
Yeah, for sure. One thing, this is off topic, but I'm realizing that as everybody's like talking, there's like a call to action to like do whatever. I obviously did not read your emails.
You did not. That's okay.
I did not have a call to action. So I'm sure, I really like the Sepiogard socks a lot myself. So if anybody wants another pair of Sepiogard socks, I'm sure Chris Johnson's team will be more than happy to give you a pair of their socks on my behalf.
There you go. I love it. Awesome. Thank you. All right, Mandy, you're up next. How can a funeral home compete with Facebook and other social media platforms?
Yeah. This kind of reminds me of a big reason why I actually started Keeper in the first place. And someone really close to me passed away just around the time I was starting the application. And I went to his Facebook page after he had passed away to try to collect some photos for his memorial service. And his family had taken his Facebook page down, which a lot of families choose to do. And I realized that I had no other photos of him. Every single thing I had of him and, all the memories I had of him were on Facebook. And that was like lost, and it felt like a second death, and it was really, really difficult. And so, that was over 10 years ago, almost maybe 12 now. And Facebook has improved their memorialization feature, but there's actually only about 1% of Facebook profiles that make up those memorialized pages. So basically, so many people are passing away. There's like 30 million deceased profiles or something on Facebook. And people also just don't really want to keep their loved ones' pages after they pass away. They don't want to keep them up on Facebook. And let's be honest, people don't really trust Facebook as much anymore. And we actually find that this is like a huge potential for funeral homes. And something that we're doing is, we offer families online memorial pages, but we're also offering it to them pre-need. We call these living memorial pages. And it essentially becomes like a digital lockbox. So families are able to like sort through the hundreds, but if we're honest, like thousands of photos and images and videos and everything that they have on their social media accounts as well as on their phones. And then they can store them and essentially tell their own story. They could use our AI tool to take all that data and then write an autobiography or a eulogy with it. And then when the person passes away, the funeral director just changes or adds a date of death, and then it becomes a memorial page, just like it would be on your website. And so what we found is that this is actually like a really incredible pre-need sales tool. And so what you can do is like you essentially offer these families something like Facebook that they're already used to using that's focused on preserving their legacy. You're going to see really big adoption. And also because they trust you. You're the funeral home provider. You're the one that they are entrusting their family and their own care with. And I mean, also, let's be honest, who really wants to be remembered by like the last photo of like a taco you posted on Instagram, right? So the way that some of our clients are also doing this is they're going to like seniors' homes, they're working with hospice, and they show it to family as a way to bring them into pre-need. So instead of it being about, okay, this is how much it's going to cost, what's your method of disposition, it's like, here's your story and your legacy. You can even offer it for free to families as a way to bring them in to pre-need, right? Saying, here is a lockbox that we're providing for you to be remembered in your own words. And it just can be like a really great lead driver. So really, like if you have the right tool that has like the similar social media functions, it's built for families for legacy, then you're essentially able to compete with places like Facebook because their families trust you more than they do a company like Facebook to kind of preserve their legacy down generations.
Love it. Good. Trust, relationship, connecting, building a relationship with that consumer in the funeral home. That's where the trust is at. All right, Charlie, coming to you. So you mentioned it in your intro. You've worked in e-commerce and technology. in many different industries. So what is something that funeral homes should know about their website and technology?
I think the real basic concept here, Ryan, and I kind of alluded to this in my intro, which is I feel like my first 3.5 months in the profession has been kind of walking this tightrope, using what I've learned, but not using it too fast, right? And so I feel like that's how I felt the entire time. And much like Mandy, I actually had a death in my family very recently that kind of influenced my journey to this company. And here's the thing that's truly shocking to me, is the lack of ownership of first-party data by the funeral homes. And we talked about a couple of macro things, and I think that there is some things that everyone on this call should hear. Number one, no one on this call, present company included, is creating AI. None of us, right? We're using macro-created AI in a specific function, but the artificial intelligence is made by people like OpenMind, DeepMind. We're basically using other people's algorithms and practical approaches to this profession. And so where can you create things that are customized to your funeral home? It's your first party data. And so the first thing you have to do is make sure no one's abusing that data. And Ryan, damn, is there a lot of abuse of first party data in this profession where people—
Well, Charlie, tell us what first party data is.
It's the data. It's the data that's generated that is yours on your website. And so if you read anything about what's happening online, there's this macro view of the death of the cookie, right? And people talk about it all the time. iOS had a rollout with iOS 14.5, which basically locked down data so no one else could see it. Google's talked about eliminating cookies from Chrome.
Yeah.
Here's what that does. It creates a disconnect between where someone was coming to your website, but once they're on your website and what they do on your website, that's your data. That's your first party data. And yet across this profession, it's almost like it's more about how companies exist to not give that power to the funeral home, but abuse that power for themselves. And I've never seen anything quite like it, right? Because when you join a retailer, for example, it's all about what Michael was talking about. Really what Michael's doing is helping people leverage their first party data. He's not creating a scraper to spin up a website that monetizes your data without you knowing it. And so there's just like this prevalence where I think the biggest surprise for me is I've spent my entire career asking myself, how do I use my first party data in a way to inform the business, to build the business, as Curtis said. And I'll give you a real example. So my dad passed in September 1st. This Sunday was a weird day for me, man. It was my first Father's Day without my dad, and it was only my 5th Father's Day as a father. And so it was this really strange day. What an opportunity for a funeral home to make a connection with me. Hey, we know this is your first Father's Day without your dad. We have your data in our CRM. We just want to send our condolences. We know it's a tough day. That's the utilization of first party data that I don't feel like that this profession has really thought about. And so to me, how we help funeral homes unlock their first party data to drive their business, but do it in a transparent way, because I think this profession has been in some ways abusing funeral homes data as opposed to unlocking it for them. And that's been a really big surprise for me.
Awesome. Good answer. Good question. Let's go back to John. We've got a call to action. If you want to learn more about Tribute websites, the built-in tools, save staff time, serve families better, plus keep your data, you can learn more. Click on that button. Go to that call.
Or Michael will just send you socks, because that's got to be the best answer to this panel. That's going to be a really tough one to beat.
I just got a video. I wish we could show it somehow, Michael, of you sending a huge mountain bike jump in Sepio socks. So
yeah, it's a static picture.
Yeah. All right, John, back to you. And also in the questions tab, panelists, if you want to just pop back and forth in there, there's some questions coming through. We won't have time to get to everybody's questions. So if there's something that you want to answer, you've got the ability to type in an answer in those question tabs as well. So you can just be aware. We'll try to grab some of them at the end. if there's a time allotment to answer those questions. But John, I'm gonna come back to you, and I love this question because legacy does a lot of different things. But what is the main focus or area of focus for legacy right now?
Yeah, so I'd put it into three different buckets, right? We've got three types of partners, if you will. We've got funeral homes, which is the fastest growing part of our business now. We have consumer direct, which is growing extremely fast as well in terms of what I mentioned before, where consumers just want to help writing an obituary. When they get that help, where do they place that? And then we also have our newspaper channel. So all three buckets remain an important part of our business. Selfishly speaking, I'm overlooking the funeral home side of the house. So anything that we can do to continue to deliver value on top of just making sure, one, their funeral homes are being found, two, their obits are being read, that they can participate in any e-commerce opportunities, whether it be flowers or trees. That's on us to make sure that we give back to the funeral homes should that transaction occur on our site, which was one of the things that hadn't happened in the past. So I think through listening through funeral homes, what is it that we can continue to build upon? So, I think everyone's talking about lead gen and how do we figure it out and what's the best way to do it. And, Charlie, I heard you with your dad's example. And sometimes I hear funeral homes saying, oh, that's too aggressive for me. I don't want to, I think it's something we should do, but there's this fine line in terms of when and how we reach out to someone. But I think if we can find ways as technology companies, as suppliers to this space to help get consumers information around what is involved with a funeral, then everyone benefits. Michael, to your point, when it gets to the funeral home, how that is followed up upon is a whole different beast. But I think we've got a tremendous opportunity collectively in just these, 5 companies here to really help propel funeral homes through educating consumers.
It's good. I love it because we got to educate. I know. I mean, when I got into the profession 17, almost 18 years ago now, that was the number one conversation I was having with funeral directors was, I wish the consumer knew X. And, I think collectively as a profession, we're starting to do better, but we have to do better. We have to be communicating with the consumer what this profession does and all the things that funeral professionals do to serve. So I love that, John. Curtis, coming back to you, what are some of the creative things you've seen funeral homes doing with their websites? And I love this because, a funeral home website is a funeral home website. So how do we get creative with it, and what are you seeing?
Yeah, I'm going to pivot this answer a little bit first. I will just touch on this really fast, though. From a creative standpoint, I think it's awesome funeral homes that are willing to embrace modern web design. If you go to any really cool new website, it's what we call SVGs or the file type, and they're illustrations and less images, right? They're a lot more lightweight. And anyway, that I think is super important. And put it, creative ways to put pricing online, stuff, all that's creative. But I think just to build off this conversation, I feel like we've really got a nice theme going here, which is some of the other, one of the other things I had listed here is that first party data thing that Charlie's talking about. And not just first party data, but zero party data, which is you're asking people for their information, right? You're gaining this. So in the back end of our website system, we have a whole section called your audience. And that has your people from contact forms, pre-need forms, obit subscribers, whether they subscribe to all of your obit digest or just an individual obit, anyone that's participated in the guest book, anyone that's purchased anything from your sympathy store, right? And the nice thing with that is you can take that data, and Ryan, you and I have had this conversation before offline, right? Because we have some shared clients where we've used this, just like Charlie said. Charlie's hitting the nail on the head right here. A lot of times you look in this audience section and my mind's blown when I go into an average sized funeral home and I find out that 6,000 people in that audience, and they're not doing anything with it. Yeah. Mike would love that data, right? Because he can take it and he can put them into a nurture campaign for you that's gonna do all these things that need to be done, right? And we've done that now with Ryan with a shared client with Facebook audiences, right? So if someone signs a guest book, they may not have said they didn't opt into being emailed, right? So you can't be emailing them if you want to be, following the law here, but you can use that for lookalike audiences and things online. So we have seen funeral homes that are doing this really well, where it's not just all the interaction that you're getting to collect first-party data. But we've seen some where we're putting a site together and they want to be intentional and collect zero-party data, which is you're asking for their information right there, right? And usually it could be anywhere. It should be all throughout the website. And when you're asking for that information intentionally, and maybe it's tied to a lead magnet, right? We've been writing some ebooks with the help of AI as well, right? Where it's like, put 50 creative things you can do at a funeral, right? Download this, and then they're opting into one of these campaigns that Mike could build for you, right? So I think, that is not just like creative, but it's like needed. And so again, like I want to reiterate that Charlie did like hit the nail on the head there, that like all of this data that's being collected on your website. I'm not aware of any website providers in the space that like don't give you access to it. So use it, right? Use it to your advantage.
Yeah.
And be creative with it. So I just, like I said, I want to just piggyback on that because I felt like that was a better use of that answer.
Curtis is just being nice to you, Ryan, because he knows I like his background better than mine. I got envy on Curtis's background. That's what's going on.
Curtis has a dope background.
We got a guy that could pay a bill for you.
All right, so Michael, lots of data. You're the guy that can compile that data and do some things with it. And some of that data that comes through is going to be lead campaign information, people that want pre-need information. So my question to you is, should a funeral home allow a pre-need counselor to just whip up from scratch a reply to some of those those requests that come in, or should there be pre-written answers that match exactly what the funeral home wants to be able to send out? So should counselors have pre-written emails, or do they just get to whip everything up from scratch?
Yeah. So when we first started the company, we'd follow up with a lot of the funeral homes to see how they were replying. And so this is, 2008. And they'd literally just say, here's our price list. Give me a call. The thing that's not really good is that is still a lot of the way people reply even today.
Yeah.
Again, Curtis is talking about these audiences. If somebody comes in through, a campaign maybe that you put together, Ryan, and it's about, pre-planning as a veteran, and I'm sending them, just a generic reply, like a generic price list or something like that. And somebody else comes in for this and I'm sending them the exact same thing. I'm not really taking advantage of the marketing dollars and efforts that were just spent generating that lead. So putting together a pre-written letter with, I don't want to call it campaign specific, but let's call it topic specific content. Of course, your price list is going to be in there, whatever else, to send back to them is going to help you, really reach that family a lot more effectively than just saying, here's our price list, call me. And think about like with a car, if you're looking at getting a minivan and you went down to, the Chevy dealership and they start sending you emails about the brand new Corvette, obviously a big disconnect on what it is you're actually shopping for and what they're sending you information on. Mm-hmm. So, the other problem too is I see that something about email requests, again, typically generated through social media or through websites. The counselors a lot of times just kind of rush it out. They're like, well, this guy just requested information, so I need to go ahead and reply as fast as I can. And so you're going to get grammatical errors, you're going to get misspellings, you're going to get, things that don't even make sense. If they're copying and pasting something, maybe they're copying and pasting a paragraph that talked about, a guitar or something like that they had a conversation with before. So it makes no sense. It's a complete waste of time as well. So again, if you're spending the money and resources to get leads from social media, to have a really nice website from whoever, and it's driving traffic, pre-need requests, you're really missing out on the last bit of it, which is the reply. And if you're just, again, letting the counselors write it, and this is nothing against the counselors because they've got, other things that they need to worry about, then you're just really not taking full advantage of that lead generation that drove that lead in the first place. So it's a pre-written letters with attachments all ready to go, so they don't have to go over to 8 different computers and figure out where the file was. already stored, ready to go. Oh, this guy came in requesting information about Veterans Burial. Boom, I got this email ready to go. If I need to make a slight change, I can. You know, this person's requesting direct cremation. I've got this email. This person's requesting mausoleum burial. I can send this email, so on and so forth. So, I mean, that's really the best way to take advantage of the things that, you know, even the leads coming through John's platform with the obits, you know, that's going to be a certain type of situation. So having an email with attachments specific to that type of lead, that audience, is just going to help you that much more than just, here's our price list.
Love it. Love it. Okay, Mandy, I'm going to kick over to you because this next question is about generating those leads that we're talking about. So how can a funeral home generate more leads from their website?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be really in line with a lot of what we've been talking about already. So I love that this is where the conversation's going. The reality is that funeral home websites, I mean, I think it's like 60% of traffic goes to obituaries for people to send condolences and receive service information. And so something that we have focused on is to add as many different touch points to help drive engagement on websites, particularly on memorial pages. And we do this in a number of ways. And a big part of it is like the way we've added a lot of additional storytelling features for families. They can build a timeline of a person's life that's associated with media. So like, you know, a video highlighting a wedding story, an album showcasing the person's time in college, all different areas that different members of the community are going to be able to engage with, right? And then these touch points are essentially triggers that help drive engagement. And engagement is liking a photo, leaving a comment, sharing a link, buying flowers. Why is this engagement important? Basically, every time someone wants to engage on a page, they need to leave their name and their email. No, we definitely don't ask people or force them at all to sign up to engage on a page because that obviously drives people away. We know that people don't want to create new accounts, but these are names and emails that are then leads that you can then bring on to a wonderful CRM system, of course, and then to continue to nurture them. And what I think is really important too for funeral homes is to always be top of mind for families. So unless you're a funeral home that's consistently serving a family or a community, let's be honest, people probably may not remember your funeral home. And especially nowadays, when the amount of services that are live streamed and people are not physically attending services, they especially do not have a connection with your funeral home. And so this is, again, where the engagement on memorial pages come in. The way that we've designed this and the way that we've worked on this specifically with our direct to consumers and now in our project with the VA and national cemeteries is we've modified it so that people are actually staying engaged for years on our pages. Because that's one of the things we find a lot is funeral homes are saying, well, people visit during the first month and then they don't come back. And so we've worked on features that change that add the engagement, that add the reminders, that add the touch points. And on top of that, when you have, you know, a good provider connected to your website, when I'm Googling my cousin John, I know he had a funeral. I don't remember the funeral home. Your funeral home website's going to come up. So basically, to drive more leads via your website, it's essentially driving more traffic to your website by having everything searchable and go directly to your website. Have families continue to go back to your website on things like memorial pages, not just during the time of passing, and then using all those leads that are generated through all this engagement for pre-need sales, essentially.
Love it. Now, let me say engagement. You talked a lot about relationship and engagement, which are two like big buzzwords for Disrupt. Like we talk heavily about creating engagement that's meaningful, that builds a relationship, because that leads to future business and leads. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow on the marketing panel. But I love that that's a focus, because I think that we've started to break away from understanding the value of the relationship. And 80% of funeral home business is driven by a relationship. We can do a lot of different things to keep that consumer in the funnel, but if we're not giving value while they're in the funnel, we're not going to build the relationship, and we're not going to have that engagement that you're talking about. So thank you for that. All right, Charlie, last question for you. And I like this question. I think it's good. I mean, you're serving about 9,000 funeral homes right now on the Tribute platform across your company. So what do you think is the most important thing Tribute can do for those funeral homes?
just to contextualize the answer, we do a lot, right? We do websites, we do management software. And so I'm really going to approach it that way. And one of the things that helps me frame this answer is to think about who our various customers and constituents are. The word customer makes me somewhat uncomfortable knowing the context of the moments we deal in. But if you think about it this way, we have the funeral home, we have the family, and we have the friends and family of that family. That ecosystem, the first thing we have to do, and Ryan, I apologize in advance if this comes off a little idealistic, is everything we do has to improve everybody's experience. Literally every, and that's this kind of level of customer centricity that I want Tribute to kind of be the model for in the profession. And so we've really approached things that way. And so every single innovation we're pushing forward is to think about that. And so more specifically, launching exclusive brand partnerships. One of the questions I love to think about is when you have 9,000 doorsteps and you have 2,000 visits per obit multiplied by all the obits that come with that, you can be very, very appealing to get things that other people just can't get on a one-off basis. And so we launched our exclusive partnership with Spoonful of Comfort on Friday. More exclusive partnerships like that is something where I think we can use our scale and no one else can do that really. And I think that that's one of our first responsibilities. The second thing is, John and I worked together once before. I was the CEO at FTD, which had partnered with Legacy in the past, and we had a great experience working with them. And I think it's really easy to understate flowers. But flowers are, you really notice it when it goes wrong, right? And that's just the hardest part about that for everybody on this call. But one of the things we've done at Tribute is make our own floral network with kind of our own tech and our own standards to sort of make it as little as possible. And what we've seen is that our premium flower network actually does have a lower refund rate than other partnerships. So I think that's another responsibility, is like Tribute has to be the one kind of generating the best possible experience that for a moment where if it goes awry, it goes really awry. And I think, unfortunately, we all have dealt with that. And then finally, and maybe a little bit kind of like, let's just talk about it. We have to have the best customer service in the space. We have to be there with the funeral homes. We have to answer the phone. And that's an area where I think we've made a ton of improvement over the last 3 months. When I joined, I wasn't pleased with where our customer service was. And now I think we've really gotten there. But I want to just end my answer by talking about, Mandy talked about it, Michael talked about it, Curtis talked about it, and John talked about it. And there's a lot of questions in the questions that are really talking about it in a roundabout way, which is, hey, how's my data being used? And I think one of our core responsibilities as a technology provider, and I think it's for everybody, is we need to be transparent about that, right? If you don't want your obits listed on another site, we should help you with that. And we should drive those opt-outs, and we should have anti-scraping technology. And so I think that John did a great job of talking about where we all as technology providers have a responsibility to the profession, which is this idea of like raising consumer awareness. I would say our biggest responsibility as a profession, particularly on the tech side, is let's be transparent about where funeral homes data is being used. And I don't think that happens right now. And so the more we can be honest about it, the more we can talk about who's scraping your site, who's monetizing your data without you getting anything back. I think that's one of our core responsibilities at Tribute, is to protect your data, but also to kind of drive awareness about data usage in the profession as a whole. And long ways to go and a lot more to understand.
Excellent. Good answer. Man, thank you guys for all of this, all of you. Like, such great information. There's so much here. The question stream is pretty active. I see some of you in there answering those questions. So I want to give each of you the opportunity to just reply to any of somebody else's questions, if you want to do that. John, I'll start with you. If not, just give us some closing remarks real quick. We've got about 6 minutes.
Yeah, there was a bunch of questions in here from Jody, which are great in terms of obits on our site. Where do the featured photos on the funeral home directory come from? So the one thing I'll add here is when I said that we focused on the funeral home channel a couple of years ago to now 9,000 funeral homes, those are all funeral homes that have said, I want to be a part of Legacy. I want to take advantage of the benefits that you have. Please do what it is that you do. So when someone goes to our directory and sees a page that's all blown out, including photos and the content about us, perhaps videos, that's because they wanted to have their directory page. kind of look like the Yelp of funeral home listings. So they've taken advantage of making sure that if a consumer's at their directory listing a legacy, that it gives them as much content as possible with as many opportunities to get over to the funeral home website. So I'll just go back to our goal is to, in any given month, drive 20 to 30% more traffic to a funeral home's website because their funeral home has chosen to partner directly with Legacy. So a lot of great questions in there, and I'll continue to do some follow up with them. But again, thank you, Ryan.
Love it, John. Love it. Curtis, you want to reply to any of the questions that have been asked to any of the panel? Any input, closing remarks?
I know we're running low on time, and you and I got a one-on-one tomorrow, so maybe I'll address a few thoughts
Perfect.
that I would want to hit, but I'll pass it along to Mike.
Excellent. Mike, you're up.
I didn't really have any comments to the questions that were asked to the other panelists, but I think they were all pretty good.
Cool.
Yep.
But hey, thanks for being a part of this. Mandy?
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks again. This was a really interesting conversation, and just kind of a last point on sort of this data ownership piece. I think it's really important. That's something that we do, because Keeper is also direct to consumer. A lot of our funeral home clients ask us, well, are you going to be serving ads or emails to our users? And that's something for us that I think is really important, that funeral homes maintain that trust with families and that they don't allow even their providers to be the ones reaching out to their families unless they're actually approving it. And so I think that that's really important. And that if you are working with a company that does have your family's data, that you do know that in your contract or whatever kind of agreement you have, that it is yours. And that if you do decide to part ways, that is given to you. So I think keeping hold of your data, I think that's really important, and just protecting your family's information as well.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Mandy, for being a part of this. And Charlie, any last words from you?
I'll answer one question specifically, which was in the Q&A, which is around Spoonful. Whenever we launch anything, we go slow. So we did a very small beta initially. The reason for that is making sure all the data flows to Spoonful is proper, make sure the service levels are good, et cetera, et cetera. We're like 4 days into it. So we haven't opened up a lot yet, but we will. They posted a link to the waiting list. So that was the one specific question I had, Ryan. And then just to build on Mandy's point, your first party data, how you protect it. And I think the most important question for every funeral home listening to this is who's using it with or without your knowledge, and who's monetizing it with or without your knowledge. This concept of data syndication needs to be talked about, because if you have people scraping your site, putting it on an Ovid site, they're making money off of your data. I think that sucks, right? And so I think it's just another idea of kind of something that we should be talking about very openly as a profession, to build on Mandy's point. But thanks for having me, Ryan. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for being on. And I just want to, I think the synopsis of this, some takeaways: technology is massively important. It's changing like crazy, and we all need to be aware of, one, how the consumer is using technology mainstream, and then how can we apply that to our specific funeral homes in different parts of the country. And you've got companies here, that's what they do. All of these companies are engaging in consumer behavior, how consumers engage, what do they want. There was a comment in here about, how do we know what the consumer wants? Well, pay attention to how they're currently using your website. What are the features they're asking for? What questions are you getting from them? Where are they putting data? And I think this conversation around data, Curtis and I, we've had a conversation about this big offline and then online. We're going to be doing a webinar soon on just data and how funeral homes, what data is being collected and how to leverage it. I know just in partnership with Tukios, with some of our funeral homes, being able to create audiences around some of the data that's being captured on their website has allowed for a great funnel and flow of keeping that consumer engaged around the funeral home, to Mandy's point, with engagement and building a relationship, which ultimately, again, 80% of funeral home business is relationship driven. So any of those touch points, leveraging data to be able to touch that consumer with value is insanely important. So I want to thank all of you for being a part of this. This is technology is such a huge conversation. We could probably spend 3 hours alone just on a panel like this, answering questions. So thank you all for being a part of this. We are going to take a 5-minute break again, and we will be back. But I want to preset this break. Please stay for at least hold going to the bathroom for about 1 minute and 20 seconds because we were releasing, I believe, the first ever Tukios rap.
Oh no.
Yes, that is coming up now. The team will be uploading it. But this is a Tukios rap. Here you go. See you in 5 minutes.
Websites and videos, I'm using Tukios. Everything I need and more, I'm using Tukios. Better than ever before, I'm using Tukios. Tukios, yeah. Hey, yeah, gonna say it right now. Simple software, they're the best now, hands down. Curtis Funk leading, what you know about that? Commission so high like Snoop wrote the contract. AI's real good, but the people still real. Call them up, give them love, man. Tell them how you feel. Websites, everything but cookie cutter. It means your site looks better than every other. Websites and videos, I'm using Tukios. Everything I need and more, I'm using Tukios. Better than ever before, I'm using Tukios. Tukios, yeah. Websites and videos, I'm using Tukios. Everything I need and more, I'm using Tukios. Better than ever before, I'm using Tukios. Tukios, Chad Romney on the horns now. Get your hands up, get your hands up, get your hands up.
phone tree. We don't have one. Just real people with a specific set of skills. Skills that we've developed supporting thousands of funeral homes. Skills that make us a nightmare for issues like yours. If you want to keep your problems, you can hang up now. But if you don't, within a few moments, we will get to the bottom of this. We will find a solution, and we will help you.
Tukios, this is JC. How can I help you?
All right, all right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, we are getting into the final hour, our last panel, Aftercare. I'm super excited about the Aftercare panel. This is such a big conversation right now in death care, and we've got a great group of aftercare companies that are going to take part in this. Domanicare, Aftercare.com, Full Circle Aftercare in Everly. So I'm going to start bringing everybody on. First, we have Ellery Bowker with Aftercare.com. And let's bring on John LaFrant. John LaFrant with Domanicare. And Matthew. Hey, Ellery.
Hey, Ryan, can you hear me?
I gotcha. We're waiting on John and Matthew, and then I am hiding Gabriel right now. Gabriel's with Everly. Here we go. Here we go. Excellent. We're just waiting on Gabriel. Thank you. I know Ellery and John both had some, like, you guys are making this work. So thank you so much for being a part of this. Both on the road, traveling today, doing things, so making it happen. Gabriel, welcome. Awesome. So we're gonna keep the same format. We are. Can you believe this? Like, we are right on time. I am shocked. We had some buffers built in, but we're running on time. Let's go. So we're gonna keep the same format. I'm going to go around, let each of you introduce yourself, just a quick introduction, and then we'll get into some conversation. I've been super psyched about this conversation because I think aftercare is, I'm not going to say a buzzword in death care right now, but I feel like there's a lot of conversation around aftercare, what it is. All of you are doing some things that are different and unique, that provide insane value for funeral homes. So this should be a great conversation, but I'm going to just keep it fair. Luck of the draw. I'm going clockwise on my screen. So Ellery, you are up first with the intro, then John, then Gabriel, then Matthew. Ellery, go ahead.
Okay, Ellery Bowker. I'm the founder and CEO of Aftercare.com. Our focus is really on helping the funeral homes stay in touch and nurture relationships with families after the service is over with. You know, much like with the pre-need companies, we sort of fill a role where the funeral director doesn't really have time to do it. They want to do it. They may be well-intentioned, but at the end of the day, they know it needs to get done. And so they just partner with us and, we do it, really good job of it. And so it just ends up where we're fulfilling a need they have that they just don't really have time to do.
Love it. John.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Coming to you live from the Starbucks on the side of the freeway on my way up to the airport. So John LaFrant, CEO and co-founder of Domanicare. So we're a text message-based aftercare program. Really where it evolved from was my experience in being an aftercare family myself after my dad passed away, but realizing that consumer preferences change and realizing that we have great mediums, i.e. text messaging, to be able to follow up with folks. Also realizing that the funeral profession, staffing is a major challenge. It's a hard thing to stay on top of your aftercare program. And so we're able to help do that as an extension of the team with live text message responders being able to do that. And it's been a wonderful ride so far. So excited to be here.
Excellent. Thank you, John. And thanks for pulling over and doing this on the side of the road, man. Love it.
You bet.
God bless Starbucks. All right. Gabriel.
Yep. Ryan, thanks so much for putting this panel together, and just a pleasure to be here. My name is Gabriel. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Everly. Really come to this space from a griever's first perspective. I worked alongside thousands of individuals who lost a loved one in the military for the past decade, and I'm taking that years of experience to walk alongside the families that you serve in your firms as well. So we're really hyper-focused on the personalization and the experience for the grievers, first and foremost, and just thankful to have a chance to share a bit more about it today.
I love it. I'm super excited for you to share. We've gotten to connect here recently a couple times, so very cool. Matthew.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. So Matt Van Drimmelen with Full Circle Aftercare, and our aftercare is a little bit of a different solution, more on the taking care of the necessary tasks and service-based aftercare. So we work actually hand in hand with most other aftercare companies out there, fulfilling the family's needs, and then we work really well with some of these other follow-up aftercare companies, and so yeah, just a different flavor. And Gabriel as well. Also work really well with Gabriel, and so yeah, happy to be here. Thank you.
So cool. Thank you for being here. And I love this. Much like the other panels, there's a lot of collaboration together with this panel, with these companies. And that's the beautiful thing about kind of what we've put together with the Unconference. There's so much collaboration across companies in this space with the ultimate goal of serving consumers better. We're serving two masters, kind of serving the funeral home and what they need, and then also the consumer is the end user of everything that's being offered through the funeral home. So so important. Just love the collaboration. All right, Ellery, we're coming to a question to you first. Okay. And so why do you think having an aftercare program is more important today than it's ever been in the past?
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna try to draw a parallel to what I think a lot of companies face, which is that we could say that aftercare is about grief support, and we could say it's about serving the family, and all that's true. But the real threat to funeral service now, like Curtis mentioned, and I think Charlie mentioned it, was the relevancy, right? But I think at the end of the day, the biggest threat that I see is the fact that they're not retaining the customers that they used to retain. So if you look at a funeral home, for example, 25 years ago, they had a base of customers that they could reliably count on, right? Mm-hmm. And that the funeral homes would basically split the calls, whatever that margin or whatever that ratio was, and they would all fight over the undecided families, right? Which was a small pool, right? If you look at in an average town, for example, well, that pool of undecided families is growing larger and larger and larger. And so if you ask a funeral home right now the question, and you said, because I think if you asked them the same question 20 years ago and you ask them the question now, the answer is going to be very different. And the question would be, Ryan, if of all the families you served in the last 3 months, how confident are you that if they had a need today, they would come back and use you again? Mm-hmm. Right? That answer 20 years ago would be a solid 100%, right, or close to they could get to it. The answer now, if hooked up to a lie detector test, would be far less. So I think the reality is that aftercare at its core is about customer retention. So I think that if you look at, whether it's real estate, whether it's car servicing, mortgages, funeral homes, if it's a high ticket item and there are lots of years in between the use cases, you've got to nurture that family, right? You got to stay top of mind somehow with that family. With aftercare, we call it aftercare and we serve that family, but we've got to figure out a way to stay in front of that family and to provide value, right? So I kind of call it being visible and being valuable. And if you can do those two things for a number of years, you got the best chance of serving that. So I think that's the reason why that they need to have an aftercare program. So even if they don't believe in aftercare as much as they should, and even if they don't believe in, some of the other things as much as they should, if for no other reason, if they're going to spend money acquiring a customer, and they're not going to retain that customer, that means they have to absorb that entire acquisition cost on that one service. That's going to get very expensive, right? The unit economics don't really work that well if you do it that way. So for no other reason other than to retain the customer, I think that's the reason they should have an aftercare program.
Love it. And I love, again, relationship. That's kind of been a theme throughout the entire day of how do we continue to keep that relationship and connectivity with that family so that they stay in that alignment, because the data shows that if you can keep that relationship, the likelihood that they navigate outside of that and go somewhere else is higher than it used to be, but still the relationship component, the consumer wants to have a relationship. So I love that. John, I'm coming to you next. How does Aftercare close the loop with other aspects of a funeral home's core business?
Yeah, I love that question. I feel like, our business historically, it all has been centered around at need, right? A death occurs and the funeral professionals are so fantastic. They dive in, they make it happen. Pre-need really kind of came big picture, into the scene in the 80s and has grown significantly, and it's been awesome. How do you preemptively get these families and capture that business prior to a death? That's always been a challenge. But we're doing a great job, I think, with that. And there's a lot of opportunity to incorporate innovation and things on that side. Aftercare has kind of been this forgotten stepchild for a long time. But I think, Ellery and everything that you've done with Aftercare.com and all these other solutions that are coming, I think it's significant because it is all about the consumer experience. Did they have a great experience at the funeral home, and do they need to continue to do that, and then amplify that experience throughout their communities in various ways? Word of mouth is super important, and getting the repeat business so that they can come back when the next death occurs is also super important. But we live in a transient world where the average person moves 11 times in their lifetime. Well, how are you capturing a new family in your community if you haven't done the proper ways to amplify that voice that's out there? If they've never done a pre-need policy, if they've never been to your funeral home in any capacity, you need to have a way to reach them. And that's where you can use that aftercare experience to amplify the voice, whether it is via Google reviews, whether it is via other goods and services, whether it, whatever the case is. Extending that relationship even beyond the service pays dividends in both pre-need and at need, without question. And I think the reason why is because it's just enhancing that experience beyond just that small window of the funeral service. And that's what Aftercare is all about. So while it was neglected in years past, it now is, you absolutely cannot do without it in 2023 and moving beyond.
Yeah, love it. Care, keep them in the circle, keep them tight, serve them well, love your people, all the things. I love that, John. Love that. All right, Gabriel, coming to you. I absolutely love this question, and I want to ask it to you, Gabriel. Why do you get up and go to work and do what you do every day?
Thanks, Ryan. I came to this space. You can see this gold star pin right here, which is representative of my brother Elijah, who was killed in Afghanistan in 2009. And it was through that experience that I got to know grief and got to know what it meant to actually have a level of support. And my family was afforded that simply because of his service. Millions of Americans don't have access to care that they should. And as I started to look at an area in individuals' interaction around death and loss, the funeral home was that singular moment in time where 27 million individuals are either going to have access to care or not. And so our team of 6 Gold Star family members as well are dedicated to providing service and to continuing to find ways to have personalization and unique to the individual care. So I love hearing the themes of relationship that are coming up and the fact that these can be economic drivers for funeral homes. But there's also such a unique moment in time that we have with individuals that you can truly be remembered by the level of care that you can provide. So for me, it's having an opportunity to really learn the names of these individuals, to walk alongside them, and to use the years of companioning that I've done in grief care and have that continue to grow.
Love it. Thank you for being here and being a part of this. Matthew, coming to you next. Or is it Matt or Matthew? I've been calling you Matthew all day, but I think you introduced yourself as Matt.
Yeah, you can do it either way.
All right. Well, we've got a handout from Full Circle Aftercare. So if you go into the handout section, you'll be able to download that. Matt and his team have put together a great handout, as well as if you missed any other handouts today, they're still all in that handout section. So Matt, first question for you. What trends have you seen with funeral homes what trends have you seen with funeral homes that want to offer more of a service-based aftercare? And then tell us what do you mean by service-based aftercare?
Yeah, great question. So I think that for a long time, funeral homes haven't done any aftercare, unfortunately, or have let the pre-need staff do it, which can sometimes cause more problems. Sometimes it can be done really well, but sometimes it can cause more problems. And so with the onset of companies like Ellery's and John's, where you start having these great options to follow up with families, that really started setting the trend of why aftercare was important. But in today's world, a lot of families are no longer needing as many services from the funeral homes that they offer, right? They don't want the full big funeral. They don't want the viewing. And so funeral homes are starting to look at what other needs do the families have that they can provide. So service-based aftercare would be looking at what the family has to deal with after the funeral, and then actually having a team in place to help them with that. And the only example I can give is, so I have 6 kids. You can imagine what the back of my minivan looks like. And I was new into this neighborhood, and I was out on a Saturday. I saw that the oil needed to be changed on my wife's minivan, so I took it in. I'm sitting there in the waiting room. I see this guy crawl into the back seat of the minivan. I'm like, well, I'm not a car guy, but I know that's not where the oil is. So I go out there, I'm like, what are you doing back here? And he's vacuuming out like all the Cheerios and, you know, everything. He has a little box. He's picking up the toys, and he cleaned out our whole minivan because he said, I saw that you needed that. And I was just so wowed, because going in to get my oil changed, like I had an expectation, and the best they could probably do was meet it. But the fact that they saw that I had other needs beyond just getting an oil change, and they serviced those needs, like my loyalty went through the roof. And I tell everyone about it, so much so that I think I've done too much. Now I can never get an oil change. It takes like a 3-hour wait because everyone uses this place. And I think funeral homes are the same way. When you can come in and they expect perfection and you deliver perfection, but then you say, hey, after the funeral's over, I'm still here. I'm still going to help you with everything you have to deal with after the fact. Families don't expect that, and that creates a loyalty that funeral homes are looking for right now. They're looking for other ways to serve the family that maybe in traditional sense, some of the families aren't wanting some of the old services. So they're looking for new ways to serve them.
Love it. Love it. Love new ways to serve families. It's good. And your team does a great job. Ellery, let's come back to you. And I like this question because it goes with a theme. We've talked a lot about pre-need today on the first panel, and coming back to it now. Why should funeral homes think about aftercare first if they're trying to grow their pre-need program?
It's a good question. I think it's because it's the shortest putt, right? And I think and they go hand in hand. And I've talked about this before at a couple presentations, and some of you may have seen it, but I think about funeral service, Ryan, as like a big flywheel, right? And I think if you look at the 3 pillars of that, you're going to have, pre-need, at-need, and aftercare. And for decades, like only one of them has gotten attention, maybe 2, right? Like John said, aftercare has been like this forgotten thing, right? But if you look at the most successful funeral homes out there, and this is regardless of size, so you could be a 100-call firm. You don't need to be a 500-call firm to be successful. But the most successful firms out there are going to focus on all 3 of them equally, right? And so if you think about one, this is not unique to funeral service, right? This is the same with any industry out there, right? Whether you're talking about, pre-selling something, servicing someone, and then service after the sale. Because it's funny, in our world, we call it aftercare, and every other business is called customer service. Right, we just had this nice, cool name for it. But if you think about it, like in the flywheel that I described, pre-need is obviously going to generate at-need when it converts, right? At-need is going to create opportunities for aftercare, and aftercare, if done properly, is going to make it really easy to transition into pre-need, right? And if you look again at the companies that are doing it really well, one feeds off the other, so you kind of get this flywheel going, right? But we live in a transient society where you don't have that loyalty anymore, right? And I joke that families will turn on you like a rented mule, right? So you're having to market more and more and more for every family now. So if you're not following up with these families and you're not kind of moving them over to the pre-need, kind of getting that flywheel going, then every day, you operate like a fire station where you have to hope the bell rings, you slide down the pole, and you go beat each other up for an $800 cremation, right? Like that's a grind. Who wants that, So look at the really successful funeral homes. They're focusing on aftercare because they know that's the shortest putt to pre-need, right? And I don't want to step on toes saying this, but direct mail seems to be the drug of choice, right? We all drop 20,000 mail pieces. We take our 1.5 or 2%, we run with it. But honestly, if you take a look at what Matt's doing with the estate closing, look, you want to take this metaphorical hand-holding that the estate closing side of this does. Gosh, you're developing, you're not sending them a card or just a text, right? You're doing more, right? You're helping, you're adding value more and more and more. Geez, I mean, it's almost obligatory that they write the next one with you. Do you know what I mean? So the more you can do after the sale, it's just the shortest putt, right? So the easy, obvious thing is drop direct mail. You can do Facebook, you can do all kinds of other things, and you should probably have an omni-channel approach. But honestly, Aftercare is just like, it's the no-brainer.
I love the theme here of the relationship. I mean, I think that's the component that we rarely talk about. Well, I won't step on toes either, but we rarely talk about the relationship and how valuable it is to connect with the families. We look at, okay, we have 72 hours, we're on to the next family. That relationship needs to be full circle. I love the flywheel analogy on that, Ellery. John, so going full circle here with this and looking at that relationship, one of the things that comes from building the right relationship and serving the family well is positive feedback. So why are Google reviews so important?
Yeah, I've been a champion and ambassador of this for a long time. Ellery, I think, brings up a good point of, what we did with Preneed and how we need to have this balanced approach. Historically, businesses could just outspend their competition in marketing dollars, right? So whether it's direct mail or billboards or commercials or radio ads, whatever the case may be, the person that spends the most money to get the eyeballs, on their business wins. We now have a new billboard. There's new ways in which consumers are finding businesses. Google is just the natural one, right? If a death occurs, they have no relationship with the funeral home, it's going to be funeral home near me, they're going to land on a Google page somewhere. And we have behaviors as consumers outside of the funeral space and death care. And I think the pandemic put even the senior demographic squarely in this, where they've learned how to look at reviews, how many reviews, what your ranking is, all of those types of things have come into play. That is the new billboard. And it is reverse engineering a little bit. It's like, instead of just spending money like crazy to try and get the attention of your consumers, now the consumers are the ones that are able to be your advocates and the voice out in the community of their positive experiences. And when you read a review and you're able to see that, that Ellery and his family had an amazing experience at Smith Family Funeral Home, and that the funeral director, and they call him by name, and they talk about all the wonderful things, and they did this great follow-up on estate planning, and all these things that Matt's team's doing, then a family has more confidence going, I think I'd rather go to this 4.7 star firm than the 3.5 star. And that is the billboard that makes the decision. And we also know that 80% of all consumers are going to go with the first funeral home that they call. So you now have to get the attention of your potential market in that little window, and it's shifted. And our profession is sometimes slow to adopt the ever evolving marketplace that's out there, but it's absolutely crucial. And Aftercare is also, when done right, can amplify that voice out into the community so that more families will trust your firm moving forward. And so it's not gimmicky, it's not meant to be bait and switch, but it absolutely needs to be crucial, and you need to be paying attention to your Google business profile to stay relevant in this era.
Yes. Good. Agree. I love it. Yes. Very good. Very good. All right, Gabriel. I'm excited to hear this answer because of some conversations we've had offline. But what's a differentiator of Everly in the aftercare space?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's really three core components that I believe differentiate Everly. One, in our aftercare, we focus on a grief profile. So we honor the fact that any death that is experienced is unique to the individual, and the mechanics around the death, and even the relationship. And so we provide a curated experience that walks alongside an individual and honors the difference for a father, then a brother, then a son, for instance, and also how their loved one passed. So that, I believe, is a key area. And we also have pre-care, which focuses on living legacies and opportunities on the pre-need side for an individual to be able to share their stories, their life, their wisdom, and their love with their family. Imagine how different it is for a spouse to be able to receive a voice message from their loved one a year after their passing, when they're starting to look at content on dating again in the Everly platform, and their loved one lets them know that I want you to find love again. That'll always be a part of your life. And so we help an individual to navigate those challenging topics and those challenging questions, to be able to really front load a healthy grieving experience for an individual. And the last part, I think, is a differentiator, is that for any funeral homes that are experiencing aftercare as a cost center, we're an economic driver. We have this set up to be able to generate revenue for your firm and to be able to provide the highest level of care that has been available within the industry. I think that those are three key areas that differentiate Everly in today's market.
I love it. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And then there was a call to action that popped up if you want to learn more about Everly's pre-care. Also, the team will throw that link to learn more about that into the chat. We're also going to have a poll question. We'd love for everyone to answer. They're going to throw a poll question up. And just know, does your funeral home currently offer an aftercare program? Just curious to know for attendees. So if you can answer that poll question, we would love that, and just to know what percentage of funeral homes are offering an aftercare program. So, all right, Matthew, I'll come to you. Last question here for you. Is service-based aftercare too expensive to offer to direct cremation families? It's such a good question.
Yeah, so getting into the nuts and bolts of it, it's a difficult problem for my funeral home clients who want to go this extra level of care for families, but we don't charge our full amount for some families that don't need the help. We do for the others, and so it averages out to be about $100 per family, and that's a big price tag to add on when you're doing a direct cremation for $600 or $700 or $800 or $900, right? And so I think that my clients have seen two ways of adding an extra layer of service. The one way is, I have a funeral home down in Texas where his direct cremation rate is $2,000. His competitors are all at $900, and he uses aftercare as a way to keep his prices where they're at. So it's not a race to the bottom. So when he gets price shoppers saying, wow, you're more than double everyone else, he's like, yeah, but we're not just handing your loved one's remains in a box. We're doing all these extra layers, including helping you get your benefits, including helping close out accounts. We're here for you. And he's like, I win 90% of my price shoppers being more than double that cost. So for him, he has to have a powerful aftercare, because these price shoppers of direct cremation, they don't care about all the other things the funeral home offers. But they do see the value in this. I have another online company called After.com. They just do direct cremation sales online. And I asked them to do a trial for me where they just gave two packages. They had their one set price of like $7.99. And I said, just give one more option with the aftercare added. And 55% of his families chose the one that was $250 more. So he was able to keep the initial price really low, but this package of Care Plus was $250 more. 55% of families chose it. He saw an 18% revenue increase in the first month just by giving families an option. So I think for when funeral homes do have to be really aware of where their costs go on for direct cremation families, but adding aftercare is still an important part of that. They can still lead to pre-need sales. There's still going to be word of mouth referrals. They could be more services down the road, but they can even be willing to pay for this extra level of service right now, and you might see a revenue increase by adding aftercare to those packages.
Love it. That's such good advice. Such good advice. Excellent. Well, we are at our time, but I want to give each of you an opportunity. If there was a question that I asked to somebody else on the panel that you want to respond to, the opportunity to give an answer. So Ellery, we'll start to you. If there's nothing, just give some parting words and we'll move on to the next.
Thank you again for putting this together and for inviting me. I don't really have any answers to a particular question. I would say I really love what you're doing, Matt, with that test. I thought that was fantastic. I think probably the only thing I would just try to leave everybody with is that, you know, it's really competitive out there right now, right? I mean, you've got, as funeral home owners, you're fighting this march toward commoditization, which is this big macro trend that we all have to fight against, right? And then you're competing against each other. You're not competing with people in your same town anymore. You're competing with online people. And in the context of aftercare, it's really the only place you don't have competition, right? It's all yours, right? So once you have that customer, it's yours to lose. So you can choose to, you know, turn and look left or right to the new families that are coming in that door and ignore the families you've got that you've already paid money to acquire, whether you realize it or not. Or you can turn and you know, and spend some time. And if you don't have the time or the staff to do it yourself, you know, look to another company to help you out. There, you know, it's really truly not that expensive. But just again, nurturing that relationship with that family will pay dividends. And I don't think it's dissimilar than any other relationship you have in your life. If you don't remember them, they're not going to remember you. So, you know, and I said this in a presentation one time, but, you know, there's a country song about this guy whose girlfriend, you know, he didn't pay attention to her and he drove by his house and there was someone else's truck in the driveway. And I don't remember the lyrics, but it was something about, you know, that's my girl, my whole world, but that ain't my truck, you know. And I think about funeral homes when you open up the obituary and you see some family you've served before and that's not your funeral home that served them. And you have kind of this WTF moment, you know, and then you wonder, you know, was that preventable? You know?
Yeah. So good. So good. So good. I love it, Ellery. John?
Oh, did the mic go off? Yeah, it's off. Okay. Sorry. I'm working on my phone because my laptop wouldn't connect to the Wi-Fi. Yeah, no, I don't have anything from an answering others' questions. I do want to thank you though, Ryan. I think we've done this since 2020 during the pandemic. And I just think this is awesome. And I do have a ton of respect for everyone on this call and love just the collective work to kind of move aftercare forward and to be a voice of that and to continue to evolve. It's not going to be a solution that it just is now going to be the same for the next 20 years. I think we live in a different world where preferences are changing at a rapid rate. And so my last little parting words of advice too, is everyone's, you know, thinking through that, I would just encourage everybody to listen to the voice of the customer and look at any of the touch points that you have along the way with the consumer and listen to them, find out what their preference is, be curious and ask and engage. We're going to be doing the same things to try and meet the customers where they're at and to hear how they can provide better service than ever before in this changing world. And that will help guide your strategy, your business decisions. The last just plug that I have too is we've recently completely transformed our grief platform. And that was built to resolve a customer concern. They had asked for grief and bereavement resources and we'd go to the funeral homes and say, well, what do you have that we could send to them? Because we wanted to be good representatives of the funeral homes. And you know, they had pamphlets and they had general links to just a government website with the directory of all the therapists in the state. And you know, that was listening to it saying, okay, there's no solutions. How can we then help? And so we've completely transformed that. And I think that that's something I would love to see more of is funeral professionals working with grief professionals too, to continue that baton pass into that next phase of this loss. And I think we could do more in that regard. And I'm certainly committed to that as well.
Love it. Love it. Love what you're doing with For Grief. It's good. It's good. And I like partnering with funeral homes because, I mean, I think most funeral directors are going to say they're not grief specialists and grief needs to be handled by a grief specialist. So thank you, John. Thanks for making the time and making this happen today to be able to be on. Ellery as well. Gabriel, any closing remarks?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say thanks for assembling such a good group here. It's an honor to be alongside each of you. Each of you have had instrumental impact in aftercare and have truly transformed the industry in various ways. So thank you for what you've been doing for years. And also to the funeral home owners and the firms that are watching this conference as well. You may end up having a suite of options. You know, the four of us here have varied different views of tools and ways to be able to support for varying degrees and lengths. So I don't think it's a one size fits all with it, and it's going to continue to evolve. And what I really love about a theme from what I've seen from all of the conference panels is that there's more conversation happening now than there ever has been. And there's more of a focus on the individual that we're all called to serve. So I'm just really thankful to be a part of the conversation today and looking forward to talking with anyone that's interested in learning more about Everly. So thank you again, Ryan.
Well, thank you, Gabriel. Thanks for being on. And Matt, we're gonna wrap up with you, sir.
All right. I do have, I saw one of the questions on the little questions tab. Do you consider marker and or monument sales as part of aftercare?
Yeah.
So I don't. I think that there's the sales side of what the funeral home needs to do, and then there's the aftercare side. And aftercare is a chance to serve the family and really take it to the next level of wowing them and building a loyalty with them. I do think that obviously monument sales is very important. So we actually do a follow-up email to the funeral for the families that our funeral homes want us to, talking about monument sales. Hey, you can go back and talk to your funeral director about monument sales, just as a reminder. But I don't think that if that's the only thing you're doing for aftercare, or if the only thing you're doing for aftercare is selling pre-need, or if the only thing is trying to get more sales, that shouldn't be aftercare, right? And I think everyone here on the panel is in agreement. Aftercare is about building that relationship, maintaining that relationship with the family, and serving them so that you're differentiated from your competition and that you build a line for future business. And that bottom line is you take care of families, even if they never return. Isn't that the business we're in? Isn't the business we're in really taking care of people at need? And if we can take care of them and do what is right, our business will grow, right? We shouldn't focus just on the dollars. We should really focus on taking care of people, and everything else will work out.
So good. So good. Well, thank you, all of you, for being on. Aftercare is an insanely big topic. It's super, super important. It's why we wanted to do a full panel. This is the first year we've done a full panel on the unconference dedicated strictly to aftercare, because I think it's that important and needs to have that dedication of a conversation to really give funeral professionals an understanding of the options that are out there. And I love, there was a question about multiple companies on here collaborating. Do you collaborate? And I love that there's such a collaboration in this, because you each offer different specific things that can collaborate with what others are offering. And I think Gabriel said it the best: a suite of options for funeral homes to offer families, with the consensus of we're building a relationship. And that's so powerful, so powerful. So thank you all for being on. All right, that wraps up day one. Some housekeeping things. Day two tomorrow is going to kick off at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So the rundown for tomorrow, we're going to kick off with another interview with Curtis Funk from Tukios. And then we're going to roll in with Paula Masters, and Paul is going to talk about the FTC rulings on pricing. So make sure that you are here for that. Lots of great information there. And then we're going to get into our acquisition and lending panel with Johnson Consulting, Foresight Companies, Live Oak Bank, C&J Financial. And then we'll have a featured panel discussion with our featured panelist, Welton Hong from Ring Ring, and a marketing conversation moderated by our friend Curtis Funk. That will include Disrupt Media, Ring Ring, and SoCal Approach. And then we'll do a one-on-one interview with Cremation Recycling. And then we are going to wrap up the day. I'm super excited about this. We're going to wrap up the day with an innovation panel discussion with Titan Casket and Parting Stone, both doing really cool things in death care and direct-to-consumer, innovating like crazy. So please stick around all day tomorrow for that. The link will be emailed to registrants for the recording. So as soon as this is over and we end the live stream for today, that link is going to be emailed out. Also, you are going to be getting your link for tomorrow. So there were 2 separate registrations, registration for day 1, registration for day 2. Some of you have already registered for day 2 and you've gotten your link already, and you will get your reminder links tomorrow an hour before we kick off. But everybody will automatically be registered for the second day as well, and you will get the link to join the webinar an hour before kickoff as well. So if you can't find it, don't worry, it's going to be sent to you, but the recordings will automatically be emailed out. So to end the day, I'm going to read the sponsors one more time, and then we're going to give another world premiere for the Tukios wrap. So if you missed it in the break, world premiere, Tukios wrap, written and produced by Eli Gable from Disrupt Media. Very, very cool. But our title sponsor for the 2023 Funeral Unconference is Tukios. We have 2 featured panelist sponsors, and Ring Marketing and Legacy.com. Our panelists are Sepiogard, Inman, Domani Preneed, Tribute Technology, Tukios, Legacy.com, Keeper, FuneralDecisions CRM, Domanicare, Aftercare.com, Full Circle Aftercare, Everly, Johnson Consulting, Foresight Companies, Live Oak Bank, C&J Financial, Disrupt Media, Ring, SoCal Approach, Cremation Recycling, Parting Stone, and Titan. So we will see you back here tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. Pacific Time. We'll start right on time, and get ready. Here is the world premiere of the Tukios wrap.
Websites and videos, I'm using Tukios. Everything I need and more, I'm using Tukios. Better than ever before, I'm using Tukios. Tukios. Everything I need and more, I'm using Tukios. Better than ever before, I'm using Tukios. Tukios, yeah. Hey, yeah, gonna say it right now. Simple Software, they're the best now, hands down. Curtis Funk leading, what you know about that? Commission so high, like Snoop wrote the contract. AI's real good, but the people still real. Call them up, give them love, man. Tell them how you feel. Websites, everything but a cookie cutter. It means your site looks better than every other. Websites and videos, I'm using Tukios. Everything I need and more, I'm using Tukios. Better than ever before, I'm using Tukios. Tukios, yeah. Websites and videos, I'm using Tukios. Everything I need and more, I'm using Tukios. Better